Chapter 1430. Chuli took a step forward and appeared in the bushes outside the gazebo. He lifted Zhou Haodong from the ground and dispersed his cultivation with a gentle palm strike. Then he looked down at him. What happened? Zhou Haodong's face was gloomy as he stared at Chu Li with resentment. Chu Li ignored him and focused on using the omniscient mirror. He instantly read the cause and effect from Zhou Haodong's mind as if he had seen it with his own eyes. He threw him down the steps of the gazebo and returned to Shao Qi. It's a pity that the disciple of the Ultimate Temple is like this. He had a friendship with the disciple of the Ultimate Temple, but he did not expect them to become enemies. This was the strange part of the world. No one knew what would happen in the next moment. That was why the divine peering skill was so rare. Shao Qi frowned. I really didn't expect that. She was about to explain when Chu Li shook his head. He lusted after your beauty and came to the Ji dynasty to kill me. The Church of the Divine Blood suddenly let you go to show respect to Zhou Haodong. They wanted to drag the Ultimate Temple into this. In the end, they got what they wanted. Shao Qi nodded. She understood the Church of the Divine Blood's tactics. They should not underestimate this tactic. As expected, Zhou Haodong was crippled by Chu Li, and the Ultimate Temple wanted to deal with the High Duke's public house. The yellow-faced man in purple robes could think of this in the blink of an eye. It was shocking that he was full of evil tricks. If one was not vigilant and cautious when going against such a person, one would be tricked at any time. Should we kill him? Shao Qi asked. Chu Li nodded. If we don't kill him, the Church of the Divine Blood will kill him and frame us. Shao Qi sighed. Is there no way to resolve the situation with the Ultimate Temple? Chu Li shook his head. Even with his current fame, the 8 major sects still did not take the High Duke's public house seriously, and neither did they take him seriously. They felt that Wei Wuwei was just unlucky, and it was not because of his abilities. They did not think that he could really overpower Wei Wuwei, or else Zhou Haodong would not have come here. The contempt and prejudice in the 8 major sects of the Fu dynasty were hard to change. With such prejudice, they would naturally be overbearing. They would completely protect Zhou Haodong and eliminate Chu Li and the High Duke's public house. Shao Qi asked, what should we do? Just hit him. Chu Li smiled. Don't worry, madam. He'll be obedient once he's in pain. It's not as difficult as you think. It's never a good thing to have too many enemies. Shao Qi sighed. Chu Li said, it's hard to have both sides in this world. No one wants to offend others, but if you don't want to harm others, it'll be fine if others want to harm you. What happened to you in the past 2 months? Shao Qi asked. Chu Li suddenly felt a little guilty. He had always thought that he could face Shao Qi calmly, but now that things had come to this, he realized that it was difficult for him to be calm. He smiled and said, I guess it's a blessing in disguise. I fell into a valley, and it turned out to be a formation. There's a spirit fruit in the formation, and after eating it, my cultivation level has improved. Shao Qi nodded slowly. As soon as she heard about the formation, she understood that they were taking so long to break the formation. Chu Li said, have a good rest, madam. I'll be right back. Where are we going? Xiao Qi quickly asked. She stared at Chu Li closely, afraid that he would disappear again in the blink of an eye and only return after a few months. Chu Li smiled. I'm going to meet the masters from the Church of the Divine Blood. These guys are watching Zhou Haodong nearby. The Church of the Divine Blood sent a Grand Supreme Elder, Shao Qi said. They hid their cultivation level and wanted to sneak an attack on you, but I forced it out. Be careful. This person's cultivation level is really scary. She felt that she cultivated the regal sword scripture and pursued the way of the enlightened master. Her cultivation level was already strong, but it was not worth mentioning in front of the Grand Supreme Elder Bao Fong. Chu Li nodded. He picked up Zhou Haodong and glided away. In the blink of an eye, he left the High Duke's public house and appeared in a forest outside the town. Zhou Haodong stared coldly at Chu Li and did not say a word. Despair rose in his heart. He did not expect the gap between him and Chu Li to be so big that he could not even take a hit. Chu Li glanced at him and suddenly slammed his palm on his chest. This palm was the Blood Jade palm. It was solid and pure, and it directly crushed Zhou Haodong's internal organs, killing him. Then he cut off his head and threw it aside before gliding away. The Church of the Divine Blood wanted to shift the blame, but Chu Li beat them to it. A moment later, he appeared in Chongming Town. In Chongming Town, two masters from the Church of the Divine Blood were fighting in a restaurant. They beat up 4 martial arts masters until they vomited blood and died. The people in the restaurant were stunned. They never thought that there would be people from the martial arts world who dared to kill people in the town. One should know that Chongming Town was a place where martial arts were forbidden. The public house's reputation had been growing for the past 2 years. Even when they were weak, they still desperately maintained this ban. Anyone who dared to violate this order would be hunted down by the High Duke's public house. No one was allowed to escape. In the past 2 years, almost no one dared to violate this rule. Chongming Town was already used to it. It was really surprising to see someone so unscrupulous. In order to force Chu Li to appear, the Church of the Divine Blood had used all their means. Chongming Town was under the protection of the High Duke's public house. If Chongming Town was in chaos, it would be strange if the High Duke's public house could still sit still. If they could not protect Chongming Town, the prestige of the High Duke's public house would be greatly affected and its foundation would be shaken. Chu Li suddenly appeared in the restaurant. He bent down and fed the 4 martial arts masters the spirit blessing pill. He activated his inner energy to dissolve the pill. The 4 people who were originally dead suddenly coughed violently and slowly opened their eyes. "Chief Chu," someone cried out. The people around him were discussing and greeted Chu Li. "Chief Chu, you're finally out of isolation." Chu Li smiled and nodded at the people. "Thank you for your concern." "Chief Chu, these people are too arrogant. Teach them a lesson." Chu Li smiled. "Of course. They are masters from the Church of the Divine Blood. We can't afford to offend them, right? So what if they are masters from the Church of the Divine Blood? Whoever dares to fight in the town will be unlucky. Am I right, Chief Chu?" Chu Li looked at the old man and nodded with a smile. "That's right. The rules of the High Duke's public house will not change. No one can violate this rule. Otherwise, only death awaits." He turned his head to look at the 2 middle-aged men in purple robes and then looked at the other 2 next to them. The 4 middle-aged men in purple robes smiled at Chu Li. They looked at him from head to toe and scrutinized him. "You are Chu Li?" Bao Fong asked. Chu Li said, "The Church of the Divine Blood is really unscrupulous. Since they dare to come to the town, there is only one word for them: kill." We have the same intention." Bao Fong smiled and shook his head. "I'm afraid you don't have the ability." Bang! Chu Li flashed and appeared in front of the middle-aged man in purple robes. He slapped him away and directly broke the bloody garment divine power. His internal organs were directly crushed. The middle-aged man in purple robes flew out and slammed into the wall. He fell to the ground and blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. He spat out a few pieces of flesh and fell to the ground. He was dead. The smile on Bao Fong's face was still there. He immediately reacted and snorted angrily at Chu Li. Bang! Chu Li suddenly used the rich inner energy of the Supreme Diamond Scripture to activate the Cloud slashing palm. He slapped Bao Fong away and ended up like the middle-aged man in purple robes. He fell to the corner of the wall and blood flowed from the corner of his mouth. Chu Li flashed and disappeared. The other 2 middle-aged men in purple robes flew out and slammed into the wall. Their bodies were limp and could not move. They were dead. Chu Li secretly sighed. The power of the Supreme Diamond Scripture was really great. Bao Fong stared at Chu Li in shock. Good. The surrounding people cheered. Their blood was boiling and the restaurant shook. Chapter 1431. Chu Li ignored Bao Fong and closed fist saluted to the people around him. Chongming Town is a place where martial arts are prohibited. Killing is strictly prohibited in the town. Martial arts will be crippled for a light offense and death penalty for a heavy offense. This is the rule of Chongming Town. Those who violate this rule will be severely punished unless they are enlightened masters. This is the promise of the public house. If anyone in the town sees anyone who violates the rule, they can report to the public house protectors. Everyone responded in unison. Chief Chu, these are masters from the Church of the Divine Blood. Are we really going to kill them? Someone asked. Chu Li smiled. So what if they are from the Church of the Divine Blood? Although the martial arts world of the Fu dynasty is strong, they have to follow the rules of the public house in Chongming Town. That's great, someone exclaimed. The rules of Chongming Town were like a protective talisman for everyone, even those who were skilled in martial arts. There would always be someone stronger than you, and even a master would have enemies. Once you hit in Chongming Town, you would be safe and sound. You would be able to take a breather and rest in peace. Chu closed fists, saluted, and suddenly stabbed with his sword. Bao Fong was about to move, but the sword had already pierced through his heart. Bao Fong gritted his teeth and pushed his palm forward. Suddenly, blood spurted out from his palm. Chu tilted his head to avoid it. The blood hit the wall behind him. Small holes appeared on the wall and quickly deepened. Finally, the stone of the wall was corroded into a hole that was half a finger deep. A few drops of blood splattered on the ground. The thick wooden board emitted white smoke and the smell of burnt wood. The people around them quickly covered their noses and retreated to the corner of the wall. Chu pulled his sword out of its sheath and blood spurted out from his heart. Chu took a step to the side and avoided it. Bao Fong stared at him unwillingly. Chu, you can't escape. He did not seem to be affected by the sword. His voice was loud, but the sword in his heart did not stop. The bloody garment divine power made his vitality stronger than anyone could imagine. His heart meridian was severed, but he was still full of vitality. Chu said, "Don't worry, go in peace." Bao Fong clenched his teeth and sneered. "If you kill us, the Church of the Divine Blood will send out all their forces to destroy the High Duke's public house. Don't think that just because the Sword Moon sect is our enemy that will hit them when they're down. When it comes to dealing with you, both our sects will attack together." Chu nodded. "Thank you for the reminder." Bao Fong turned his head and glanced at the crowd. His gaze was intense. The two sects will attack together, and the Ultimate Temple will also join forces. Not only will we destroy the High Duke's public house, but we'll also destroy Chongming Town. Chu asked, "Is it not enough to just destroy Chongming Town? So you want to destroy the Ji dynasty as well? You won't be in the mood to joke around in a few days," Bao Fong said coldly. "With our three sects moving together, how many people can you protect no matter how powerful you are? How many people can survive in Chongming Town?" Chu shook his head and said, "Chongming Town is not a place that you can destroy just because you want to. Don't forget that we have an enlightened master protecting us. Do you really think that the Fu dynasty can do whatever they want?" Everyone was originally scared witless. Bao Fong's words might have been exaggerated, but there was an 80 to 90% chance that it was true. Was Chongming Town really going to be destroyed? Should he leave Chongming Town for a period of time, observe the situation, and wait for the storm to settle down before deciding what to do? Chu's words calmed them down. Yes, there was an enlightened master protecting the town. They would not allow them to destroy town. Moreover, it was the town where the High Duke's public house was located. Normal people would not have to worry. Bao Fong shook his head and said, "Do you really think that an enlightened master would dare to kill us?" Chu laughed. "If I dare to kill you, forget about an enlightened master. You should be on your way too. I will wait for you at the Grand Master's boundary." Bao Fong sneered. A red light suddenly burst out from his body, and he disappeared in an instant. Chu took a step diagonally and stabbed lightly. Ugh! A figure appeared in the void, his body shrouded in a red light. The tip of Chu's sword stabbed into his heart again. The red light slowly dissipated and Bao Fong appeared again. Bao Fong gritted his teeth, his eyes were spitting fire, and his blood-red face was filled with unwillingness. Chu said, "The blood god escape, right? It's really amazing." Although the blood god escape was amazing, it could not hide from the omniscient mirror. Chu's speed was also faster. Bao Fong was stabbed when he entered the void. If he was a moment later, the long sword would have stabbed into thin air, and he would have escaped. Bao Fong gritted his teeth and said, "You're really good." He originally thought that no matter how powerful Chu was, he would not be able to catch him. The blood god escape was no different from a divine power. With this skill, he could escape unscathed and had saved his life countless times. He never thought that it would fail in front of Chuli. He was extremely unwilling. The 6 of them were killed before they could even use their secret techniques. 1 palm for 1 person. He was lucky enough to take 1 palm and 2 sword strikes. The blood god escape had consumed too much of his blood chi. Now all of them were gone. He did not have the time to use his skills before he was killed. This feeling was too suffocating and too unwilling. He was slightly better. He only had time to use the blood god escape, but it was still broken. He could only wait for death. If Chuli wanted to achieve his goal of establishing his authority and calming the hearts of the people, he could only kill Bao Fong in front of everyone. Otherwise, people would suspect that he did not dare to kill Bao Fong and secretly let him go. They would question the credibility and determination of the High Duke's public house. Chuli said, "Grand Elder, how many people do you have in the Church of the Divine Blood?" "A total of 10. Bao Fong smiled sarcastically. "If you kill me, the next time, the 9 of them will attack together." Chuli nodded. "Then wait for them to send you on your way." With a gentle swing of his sword, he stabbed the center of the chest again. Bao Fong's eyes widened and stared straight at him. His eyes were dim and lifeless. He was completely dead. Chu Li's sword contained a strange force that instantly destroyed all of his internal organs, ending his life. Chu Li glanced at the people and said slowly, "Everyone, just stay here. As long as the High Duke's public house is here and I'm here, no one will be allowed to act presumptuously." "Good." The people cheered and their blood was boiling. They sighed inwardly. The Supreme Elder of the Divine Blood Church had been killed just like that. It was as easy as killing a chicken. Even if the other 9 Supreme Elders were here, it would be useless. Needless to say, the Supreme Elder was the strongest among them. The Divine Blood Church was not afraid of him. Chuli saw that the people had calmed down. He smiled and gave a fist salute. He carried Bao Fong and left. He found a place and cut off Bao Fong's head. Then, he returned to the High Duke's public house and told Shao Qi and Shao Shi about it. Then, he immediately went to the Fu Dynasty. The Fu Dynasty's Wuji Mountain. The morning sun shone on the Wuji Mountain. It was lush and green. A gust of wind blew and the sea of bamboos surged like waves. Chuli arrived at the foot of the Wuji Mountain and gave a fist salute to the 2 young men in yellow robes in the gazebo at the foot of the mountain. "I'm Chuli. I have important news to report." "Chuli?" The 2 young men in yellow robes frowned and looked at him. They vaguely felt that the name was familiar. He should not be an incompetent person, but they could not remember who he was at the moment. Chuli nodded. "Chuli from the Ji Dynasty. You're the Chuli who killed Wei Wuwei." The 2 of them cried out. They looked at him from head to toe as if they were looking at a strange object. Chuli smiled and nodded. "That's me. You're really well known. What are you doing here?" "I have something important to report to the Wuji Temple." "What is it?" "This." Chu Li hesitated. "Your temple's Zhou Haodong has been killed by the Grand Elder of the Church of the Divine Blood." Chapter 1432. Impossible. Both of them shook their heads. Zhou Haodong's martial arts was outstanding and had surpassed the level of a young disciple. Even if he faced the Church of the Divine Blood's Grand Supreme Elder, he would still be able to escape. He was a genius. How could he be killed so easily? Chu Li shook his head. "Why is it impossible?" The Church of the Divine Blood could not bear to see young masters because of Wei Wuwei's death. When they saw young hero Zhou from your sect, they had the guts to kill him. How did Brother Zhou meet them? Both of them frowned and were still doubtful. If the people from High Duke's public house heard that Chu Li was killed, they would also be doubtful and find it hard to believe. After all, they were confident because of his miraculous abilities. They felt that God favored them and they would not die so easily. Chu Li sighed. Actually, young Master Zhou was a busybody. He sighed again. "That's why I came to report this personally. It's also to repay young Master Zhou's kindness. My wife was saved by young Master Zhou, and because of that, she offended the Church of the Divine Blood's Grand Supreme Elder, Bao Fong. In the end, she was killed by Bao Fong." Bao Fong. Both of them frowned and thought about it, but could not remember. The Church of the Divine Blood's Grand Supreme Elder had been hiding in the church for more than 200 years and did not care about worldly affairs. When they became famous, these two young disciples of the ultimate temple were not even born yet. By the time they became sensible, Bao Fong had long retired and his reputation had dissipated. Chu Li said, "I hope that both of you can pass on the message." "All right, wait a moment." Both of them did not look too good. After Chu Li said so much, they began to believe him. They thought about how angry the sect would be if they knew about this. This was a major event that concerned the sect's rise and fall. It could not be taken lightly. A young man in a yellow shirt went up the mountain and disappeared into the bamboo forest in the blink of an eye. The other young man in a yellow shirt looked gloomy and did not say a word. He looked at the forest in the distance and was lost in thought. Chu Li sighed and did not say a word. The pagoda was so quiet that it seemed to freeze. A gentle breeze blew and the bamboo forest rustled. The pagoda became even quieter and was out of tune with the surroundings. After a while, the young man in a yellow shirt flew back and said hurriedly, "Quickly, follow me." Chu Li nodded. The two of them used their lightness skill to step on the bamboo branches and quickly arrived at a Taoist temple in the bamboo forest. In the bamboo forest, other than this Taoist temple, there was an unending stretch of buildings. They were arranged in an orderly fashion, giving off a sense of antiquity. There were a few people standing in front of the Taoist temple. One of them was Zheng Zhe, whom Chu Li had met in the guise of Du Feng. Zheng Zhe stood in front of more than 10 yellow-robed disciples and looked over anxiously. When he saw Chu Li and another yellow-robed youth appear, he quickly went forward and fist saluted. "Are you Chief Chu Li of the Ji Dynasty's public house?" His actions were still refined and courteous, but there was more steadiness between his brows, and his bearing was condensed. Chu Li gave a fist salute and smiled. "Yes, it is me. Greetings, young heroes. I'm Zheng Zhe, Chief Chu. Please come in." Zheng Zhe cupped his fists and said, "Let's talk inside the temple." Chu Li nodded. The crowd escorted the two into the Taoist temple. The inside of the Taoist temple was a spacious courtyard that was clean and spotless. The ground was paved with white, jade-like stones that were hard yet soft. It was very comfortable to step on. The three sides of the Taoist temple had halls that enshrined the statues of the three Qing dynasty's founders. Three white-bearded old Taoists stood at the bottom of the steps of the main hall in the temple. They were all dressed in green robes and had solemn expressions. Zheng Zhe went forward and introduced them. "This is our head temple master Lu Songren. This is second temple master Song Jin, and this is third temple master Hu Qiexia." Chu Li gave a fist salute and said, "Greetings, temple masters. I'm Chu Li from the Ji dynasty. Chief Chu, please." Lu Songren was slightly short and skinny. He stood there like an old pine tree. His eyes were exceptionally spirited, and the corners of his lips were drooping. He was solemn and dignified. He gave a fist salute. "Greetings." The three of them turned around and returned to the basilica. Chu Li and Zheng Zhe followed them into the basilica while the rest stood at the bottom of the steps. When everyone sat down, Lu Songren said, "Chief Chu, my disciple Haodong is really dead?" Chu Li sighed. "I've already buried young Master Zhou's body. The body was split into two. He won't be able to come back to life." Bao Fong and the others were ruthless. They didn't want young Master Zhou to live. Phew! A long exhalation was heard in the basilica. Lu Songren let out a long breath of white air. It was like a white arrow that was shot out. His eyebrows moved as if a strong wind was blowing. His green and white robe fluttered loudly. Chu Li sat opposite him, feeling the heat coming from the white gas. He was letting out the nameless hellfire in one breath to avoid hurting himself. The ultimate temple was indeed a Taoist sect. They had a unique secret to cultivating one's character. The hellfire was the most hurtful. Lu Songren said, "How did Haodong meet Bao Fong?" Chu Li told him what happened, but fabricated the story of Bao Fong trying to kill Zhou Haodong. He also said that Zhou Haodong was already dead when he rushed over. Hence, he chased Bao Fong to a restaurant in Chongming Town and killed Bao Fong and the others on the spot to avenge Zhou Haodong. If Zhou Haodong had not saved Shao Qi, he would have regretted it for the rest of his life. Hence, he was extremely grateful to Zhou Haodong. It was a pity that he could not thank Zhou Haodong personally or see him for the last time. He said it with sincerity and touched people's hearts. Lu Songrun and the others did not doubt Chu Li's words. After all, Zhou Haodong did save Shaoqi. He was his savior. No matter how evil Chu Li was, he would not harm Zhou Haodong. Moreover, Chu Li had a good reputation and high prestige in the Ji dynasty. He was not someone who would bite the hand that fed him. Chu Li used this mentality to visit them in person with a clear conscience. He blamed the Church of the Divine Blood completely so that the ultimate temple would not attack them. 2 would still be able to withstand it, but 3 would be dangerous, and they might not be able to. The key was that the rich inner energy obtained from cultivating the supreme titanium scripture was not much. It only filled up 6 meridians. The more he used it, the less it would be. It was powerful, but not much. He would not use it if he could. Without cultivating the supreme titanium scripture with Sun Mingwei, the inner energy obtained was extremely young. Although it was powerful, it was far from the rich inner energy. He could not kill a grandmaster with one palm. He decided not to cultivate with Sun Mingwei anymore. This way, he would not be able to use it as he wished. He would kill one less person if he could. Lu Songrun remained silent. Song Jin and Hu Tiexia's eyebrows twitched. They were filled with anger as if there was a wind blowing around them. Chu Li sighed. After all, young Master Zhou died trying to save his wife. I feel that I have to give the ultimate temple an explanation. Sigh. Lu Songren sighed. He's not lucky after all. Senior brother. Song Jin was fat and honest. He said in a deep voice, "We must avenge him." Hu Tiexia nodded vigorously. Chu Li said, 3 Taoist masters, I owe Brother Zhou a favor. Unfortunately, I can't repay him. If the ultimate temple needs anything, just let me know. I'll do my best. I can't just stand by and watch when it comes to dealing with the Church of the Divine Blood. Lu Songren looked at him. Chu Li sighed. Even if the 3 Taoist masters don't deal with the Church of the Divine Blood, I won't let them go. Very well. Song Jin scoffed. The Church of the Divine Blood is becoming more and more presumptuous. It's time to teach them a lesson. Chief Chu, do you really want to get involved? Chu Li fist saluted. It's my duty. Good. Song Jin smiled. Chief Chu, the ultimate temple will never forget your righteousness. Chapter 1433. Lu Songren shook his head. Junior brother, we can't rush this matter. We need to plan carefully. Senior brother, what is their plan? Hu Tiexia said impatiently. Are we just going to let Haodong die with regrets? Let's do it now. That's right, senior brother. Speed is crucial in war. Let's do it before the Church of the Divine Blood is prepared. Song Jin scoffed. Moreover, the Church of the Divine Blood now is different from before. The Church of the Divine Blood strength was greatly damaged. First, Stargazing Pavilion joined forces with 2 other sects and damaged their vitality. Then, they were severely injured by Chu Li and even killed Wei Wuwei. The Sword Moon sect also took the opportunity to damage them. Although the Church of the Divine Blood was still bigger than a horse, they could no longer pose a threat to the other 7 major sections. Only Bishop Huang Tianhe was a threat. As long as there were enough masters to hold him back and kill the other masters first, the Church of the Divine Blood would be destroyed. Although the Church of the Divine Blood would not be destroyed with the Heaven God Pill guarding them, their vitality was greatly damaged and they could no longer pose a threat. As long as they kept suppressing them, they would not be able to make a comeback in 1,000 years. The other sects would definitely not let go of this opportunity. Although the food dynasty was huge, there were only so many spirit herbs. If others had more, they would have less. The number of disciples with top-notch qualifications was limited. If others had more, they would have less. This was the root cause of the 8 major sects' internal strife. Lu Songren shook his head. The Church of the Divine Blood is not as easy to deal with as you think. Those who died were just ordinary masters. The real top ones are still here. If we fight, we might hurt our vitality. If others hit us while we're down, it'll be too late for regrets. Senior brother, are we not going to avenge Haodong? Hu Tiexia shouted. Lu Songren sighed. Chief Chu has already avenged him. Bao Fong is already dead. Do we have to destroy the Church of the Divine Blood to avenge him? Although Haodong is a genius, he is not that precious. We can't use the lives of other disciples to avenge him. Senior brother, you're so cruel. Hu Qiexia scoffed. To think that Haodong always respected you like a god. Lu Songren shook his head. We can't be emotional about this. Chuli said, You're right, Temple Head. The Church of the Divine Blood is indeed difficult to deal with. I've killed Bao Fong, and I heard that there are still 9 other Grand Supreme Elders who are not inferior to Bao Fong. Bao Fong is hard to kill, right? Lu Songren said in a deep voice. He was a top master 200 years ago. Although he wasn't the top, his status was similar to the current Haodong. He was a genius, and he had cultivated for 200 years, so he must be even more terrifying. Chuli smiled. It's all right. You managed to block 2 of my palms. 2 palms? Hu Qiexia hurriedly asked. Chuli smiled and nodded. You didn't manage to kill him with a single palm strike. You're impressive indeed. Good boy, what a big tone. Kill with 1 palm. Hu Qiexia shouted, Don't brag. Chuli smiled. If you don't believe me, why don't we give it a try? Hu Qiexia floated away from the armchair and stood in the middle of the hall. Come, let me see what you're capable of. Let's see if you're lying. Killing Bao Fong with 2 palms? How dare you brag? Chuli appeared in front of him in a flash and slammed his palm down. A wave of mellow inner strength flowed out from his navel and into his palm. Bang! Hu Qiexia flew out like a stone thrown from a catapult. He crashed into a vermilion pillar in the hall. The beam in the hall trembled from the impact, and dust floated down. There was blood at the corner of Hu Qiexia's mouth as he slowly slid down the vermilion pillar. He looked at Chuli in shock. Chuli looked embarrassed. Senior Hu, are you all right? I've already held back half of my palm energy. Good palm technique, Hu Qiexia said with a bitter face. As he spoke, blood gushed out from his mouth again. His internal organs were already injured, and the palm energy was still wreaking havoc in them. Song Jin hurriedly went forward and touched his wrist. He pressed his palm on his back and transferred his inner strength to help. Their heart techniques came from the same source, so their inner strength was similar. Once it entered his body, it helped him circulate his energy to heal. Chuli's palm energy was not too heavy. He only used a trace of mellow inner strength. Naturally, the power was not enough to kill him, but it was enough to injure him. Soon, purple gas emerged from the top of their heads. It was dense like a mist and shrouded their faces. After a while, the purple gas dissipated. Song Jin retracted his palm and looked at Chu Li in surprise. No wonder you could kill Bao Fong. He felt a trace of palm energy from Hu Qiexia body. It was so strong that his inner strength could not dissolve it. They had to work together to forcefully expel a trace of palm energy from their bodies. Otherwise, it would continue to injure their bodies. Such a powerful palm energy was extremely terrifying. They could not block it if they used all their strength. Chuli Fizz saluted. I didn't know how to control my strength. Please forgive me, senior. Hu Qiexia waved his hand. I'm not that petty. No wonder you could kill Wei Wuwei. With your cultivation level, killing Wei Wuwei was not difficult. Are you really going to help us against the Church of the Divine Blood? Chuli nodded. I'm sure you know that I and the Church of the Divine Blood are like fire and water. I must deal with them. Your sect also wants to take action. How can I not help? Even if your sect doesn't do anything, I will. Good, that's heroic. Hu Qiexia praised loudly and glanced at Lu Songren. Lu Songren was unmoved. He frowned and said nothing. Senior brother. Song Jin was also dissatisfied. Don't think so much. Let's do it. Lu Songren said, It's easy to do it, but after that, how many disciples will die? As the temple leader, I can't only think about Hao Yin. He's already dead. No matter how much revenge he takes, he won't be able to live. Senior brother, you're too heartless. Song Jin shook his head and sighed. The disciples will be bitterly disappointed. Lu Songren said in a low voice, Both of you help Chief Chu find a place to stay. Be a good host. All right. Hu Qiexia scoffed. Let's go. The two of them brought Chu Li out of the basilica. There were already more than 30 yellow-shirt disciples standing at the bottom of the stairs. They were all looking at Song Jin and Hu Qiexia. All right, disperse. Do what you need to do. Hu Qiexia waved his hand impatiently. He wanted to disperse the crowd. Masters Junior Hu, Zhang Zhe said in a low voice. Did Senior Zhou really pass away? Yes. Hu Qiexia scoffed. You guys have to work harder. Don't embarrass the ultimate temple. Even without Haodong, you can't let others look down on us. Yes. The crowd hurriedly nodded. Song Jin said, Don't even think about taking revenge. The Grand Temple Master will decide on this. The crowd suppressed their anger and fists saluted before leaving. The two of them brought Chu Li to an elegant courtyard. They sat in the gazebo with gloomy expressions. Chu Li sat opposite them. Seniors, you're not satisfied, are you? Haodong's death was too unjust. Hu Qiexia slammed the stone table angrily. The Church of the Divine Blood deserves to die. Chu Li advised, Seniors, I think the Grand Temple Master did the right thing. We can't be impulsive. Are we just going to swallow this? Hu Qiexia scoffed. I can't. They're both one of the 8 major sections. What right does the Church of the Divine Blood have to be so unreasonable? Things are different now. Song Jin's face darkened. He did not say a word. Chu Li said, The Church of the Divine Blood has gone crazy. They'll bite whoever they catch. They'll definitely fight with the Sword Moon sect until both sides suffer. It's best for the Ultimate Temple to sit on the sidelines and watch them fight. It won't be too late to make a move when they're weaker. Song Jin raised his head and looked at him with a faint smile. Chu Li, don't you want us to make a move? Chu Li sighed. We're indebted to Brother Zhou. If it weren't for that, I'd be more than happy for you to make a move to reduce the pressure on me. However, you're Brother Zhou's seniors and fellow disciples. How can I put you in danger? Forget it. Song Jin sighed. Let's just swallow this. Chapter 1434. Bang! Hu Qiexia punched the stone table, leaving a palm print. Chu Li remained calm and collected, but he was secretly surprised. He did not expect the Ultimate Temple's palm technique to be so brilliant. Such a pure palm energy was not something that could be displayed by a pure disciple of a sword faction. It seemed like the Ultimate Temple had another antique study. The 8 major sects of the Fu dynasty were not to be underestimated. Junior brother, there's nothing wrong with bearing it. Song Jin said, Haven't we been bearing it all these years? It's because I've endured for so long that I can't take it anymore. Hu Qiexia said, In the beginning, we tolerated it for the sake of the big picture, but as we endured it again and again, we lost our drive and vigor. If this goes on, our bones will be bent, and we won't be able to straighten them anymore. Junior brother, Song Jin's face darkened. Hu Qiexia said without a care, Anyway, I can't take it anymore. If senior brothers don't do it, I'll do it myself. Chu Li remained silent. Song Jin said, Could it be that you want to implicate us? Senior brother, Hu Qiexia face was ashen. Are we going to endure this forever? If one lifetime doesn't work, then 2 lifetimes. Song Jin said coldly, Enduring a moment of humiliation and planning for the future, it's not that difficult. Bang! Hu Qiexia slammed her palm on the stone table again, leaving a clear palm print. Chu Li could tell that the Ultimate Temple was plotting something big. Otherwise, there was no need for them to tolerate it. Cough. He coughed lightly and said, Seniors, you don't have to fight anymore. Don't worry. Leave this matter to me. I will go and avenge young Master Zhou. Seeking revenge? Hu Qiexia looked at him. Chu Li nodded. I'll depart for the Church of the Divine Blood tomorrow. I'll fight my way up to their doorstep and destroy their reputation. Nonsense. Hu Qiexia said angrily. Is the Divine Blood Church really that easy to deal with? Why do we have to endure so much? Chu Li smiled. I'm different from your sect. If I endure humiliation, the Church of the Divine Blood will retaliate even more fiercely. If I don't want to be retaliated, I can only hurt the Church of the Divine Blood so that they won't dare to come to me. Sigh. The Ji dynasty is still too weak. Hu Qiexia nodded. Chu Li sighed. It can't be helped. You don't have to be anxious, Senior Hu. Just wait for my good news. Even if we can't destroy the Church of the Divine Blood, we can still fight with a few masters and weaken their strength. It won't be too late for your sect to make a move then. How could we take advantage of you? Hu Qiexia snorted. Chuli smiled. It doesn't matter if your sect is going to fight or not. I'm going to fight anyway. How can you talk about taking advantage of me? Chuli, I really admire your heroism. Hu Qiexia shook her head and sighed. Chuli shook his head and smiled. It's not heroism. It's just a helpless struggle. All right, junior brother. Chuli must be tired from the long journey. Let him have a good rest. Song Jin stood up. Hu Qiexia reluctantly got up and left with Song Jin. The two of them left the courtyard and returned to the main hall of the Taoist temple. Lu Songren was sitting on a praying mat in the middle of the hall with his eyes closed. Behind him were the statues of the three pure ones. Lu Songren opened his eyes and asked, "How is it?" Song Jin said, "You don't look like you're faking it, and you're not trying to sow discord either. I really want to avenge Haodong." Hu Qiexia nodded. He's a determined fellow. It's not entirely by luck that he has such achievements at such a young age. Lu Songren nodded. Let's wait for the news to come back. He really doesn't know that Haodong is looking for trouble with him. Song Jin frowned. He can't be that muddle-headed, right? He didn't lie. Haodong was murdered by Bao Fong before he could even meet him. Hu Qiexia scoffed. Instead, he misunderstood and thought that Haodong was really trying to save his wife. It's a freak accident. Song Jin shook his head and sighed. Haodong is really unlucky. As one of the 8 major sects, the Ultimate Temple had their own secret technique to sense the life and death of their core disciples. They knew the moment Zhou Haodong died, but they pretended not to know. They wanted to see what Chu Li was up to. They had other thoughts about Chu Li, which was why they went through so much trouble. Zhou Haodong was supposed to be a pillar of the future, but he died in the Great Ji Dynasty. The loss was huge, and it also broke the hope of the Ultimate Temple for the next 100 years. The loss of a leading master would have a huge impact. They had investigated the incident clearly, but because no one had seen it personally, they could only guess. They verified it with what Chu Li said, and there was no falsehood. Temple leader, are we really not going to fight the Church of the Divine Blood? Hu Qiexia could not help but ask. Half of it was an act, and the other half was his real thoughts. He really wanted to get rid of the Church of the Divine Blood. He had tolerated them for a long time, and it was time to settle the score. Lu Songren shook his head. It's not time yet. Then when is the time? Hu Qiexia asked. Lu Songren said, the Church of the Divine Blood is not at the end of the road yet. They are now injured beasts, and their retaliation is the craziest. It's not good to provoke them. Let someone else do it. I'm afraid that everyone has the same thought, that they want someone else to provoke them, Hu Qiexia said. In the end, they'll be able to breathe. We'll talk about it when the time comes, Lu Songren said. Is Chu Li worth it? He's a genius. Song Jin nodded. But it's not that easy to rope him in. He's determined, and he's very sentimental. He might not leave the public house to come to the Ultimate Temple. What martial arts do we practice? And what martial arts does he practice? Hu Qiexia scoffed. I don't believe that he won't be tempted. Song Jin shook his head. He might be tempted, but he might not leave everything behind. Then let's observe and see, Lu Songren said. We can't rush it. The other two nodded. This was a serious matter, and they had to consider it carefully. They could not be too hasty. The next morning, Lu Songren was meditating in the basilica when Hu Qiexia hurried over. Temple leader, what is it? Lu Songren slowly opened his eyes and looked at him with dissatisfaction. His behavior was indeed not peaceful, and he was impetuous and unstable. Hu Qiexia quickly said, Chu Li left. Where'd he go? Lu Songren asked. He might have gone to the Church of the Divine Blood. Hu Qiexia quickly said, I didn't expect that kid to be so stupid. His courage is commendable. Lu Songren nodded and closed his eyes again. Temple leader, aren't you worried that he won't return? Hu Qiexia said. Lu Songren said, if he really has such a short life, why worry? All right, Hu Qiexia said, I'll secretly observe. What do you think? Not too close, Lu Songren said. Hu Qiexia nodded excitedly. He turned around and left in a hurry. He did not take anything with him and immediately used his light body technique to descend the mountain. He traveled all the way, and after 3 days, he had traveled nearly 10,000 miles and arrived at the Blood God Peak. He wanted to see if Chuli had come. When he arrived at the foot of the Blood God Peak, he saw that the entrance of the Blood God Peak was in a mess. More than 10 disciples of the Church of the Divine Blood were lying on the ground, motionless. He was shocked. He thought to himself that it could not be that fast. Could it be that Chuli rushed over and directly attacked them? That was too arrogant. Chapter 1435. Chuli appeared in the valley, and there were only 4 elders in purple robes around him. There were already 20 grandmasters lying dead on the ground. The surroundings were in a mess. Flowers and grass were scattered all over the ground, mixed with the rocks and sand. It was as if a tornado had just passed through and suffered great damage. The combined attack of more than 20 grandmasters was extremely powerful. The 4 purple-robed elders looked solemn and indignant as they glared at Chuli. As Chuli moved forward step by step, they retreated step by step, maintaining a sufficient distance so that they would have a chance to dodge. 1 palm could kill a grandmaster. With such a strong cultivation level, they had to be careful. Even if they were the Grand Supreme Elders, they could not withstand 1 palm. If they were not dead, they would be injured. Once they were injured, they would not be able to escape the 2nd palm. Since he stepped into the Divine Blood Peak, no one could take more than 3 palm strikes from him. At most, 2 palm strikes would kill them. Chuli walked calmly and slowly. He did not say a word. One of the elders in purple robes said, "Chuli, what are you doing?" Chuli looked at him calmly. "Mutual destruction. Since you want to destroy the High Duke's public house, I will destroy the Church of the Divine Blood." "How arrogant!" The elder in purple robes said, "No matter how strong you are, you won't be able to destroy the Church of the Divine Blood." Chuli said, "It doesn't matter if I can't destroy it. As long as your vitality is greatly damaged, you won't be able to take revenge on the High Duke's public house. This is because of you. Even a corner dog will jump over a wall, let alone a human." The 4 elders in purple robes were silent. They suddenly felt a trace of regret. Did they really do something wrong? They provoked such a powerful person and forced him into a desperate situation. In the end, they provoked him into a killing spree. Even if they killed him in the end, the Church of the Divine Blood would suffer a great loss. With so many grandmasters dead, no matter how strong their strength was, their vitality would be greatly damaged. They would not have an easy time in the future. The other 7 sects would not let go of the opportunity to bully them. Chuli said, "Where is Huang Tian'e?" "The bishop is an isolated cultivation." One of the elders in purple robes said, "You are not enough for the bishop to take action." Chuli shook his head and disappeared in a flash. In the next moment, he appeared in front of him and hit him with his palm. His movement seemed slow, but it was incomparably fast. His palm gently dodged the purple-robed old man's palm and accurately hit the old man's chest. Pung! The purple-robed elder flew out, coughed out blood, fell to the ground, and died. The remaining 3 purple-robed elders roared angrily as they charged forward. They had already thought things through. When 2 sides met on a narrow path, only the brave would emerge victorious. Chuli disappeared in a flash, evading the 3's attacks. The 3 elders in purple robes had great teamwork. Even when they were burning with anger, they still maintained their tacit understanding and sobriety. The blood-jade palms of the 3 of them were like one, pressing towards Chuli, forcing him to take it head-on. Chuli used the supreme titanium scripture's inner energy of extreme yang to activate his body movement technique, which was explosive and swift. He took a step out of the encirclement and appeared behind one of the men. Then, he gently slapped his palm down. He had already replaced it with the rich inner energy of the supreme titanium scripture. Bang! The purple-robed old man was sent flying and landed 10 meters away, motionless. He was already dead. Bang! Bang! Soon after, the 2 purple-robed elders were also killed. Chuli lifted his head and looked around. It was already empty. The huge sutra library seemed to be deserted. These 4 elders were the Taishang elders. Their martial arts skill was 1 level lower than Baofeng's, so 1 palm strike was enough to kill them. However, half of his rich inner energy had been used up. Using his rich inner energy to activate his palm energy could kill with 1 palm strike, but it also consumed a lot of inner energy. Otherwise, he would not be able to kill them, but instead, he would use up more inner energy. Therefore, he had to kill them with 1 palm strike, even if it was economical. He had already killed more than 30 people, and he still had to save some inner energy to deal with Huang Tianhe. It seemed that it was impossible for him to destroy the Church of the Divine Blood by himself. However, he did not know if the Sword Moon sect would take advantage of this and save him some trouble. He originally went to the Ultimate Temple to eliminate future troubles, so that the Ultimate Temple would not attack the High Duke's public house. If possible, he also wanted to provoke the Ultimate Temple to attack the Church of the Divine Blood. Unfortunately, he only knew their thoughts after entering the Ultimate Temple, so there was no hope. They really dared to think about making him a disciple of the Ultimate Temple. From their point of view, there was indeed no possibility for him to reject. In the eyes of outsiders, he did not have a master. Once he entered the Ultimate Temple, he would be climbing up a big tree that could protect the High Duke's public house and King An's imperial residence. It was better than staying in the High Duke's public house and King An's imperial residence. At that time, the Church of the Divine Blood and the other Fu Dynasty sects would not dare to attack the High Duke's public house. Moreover, the martial arts of the Ultimate Temple were exquisite and profound, far more than ordinary martial arts. It was an endless temptation for martial arts practitioners, and they did not believe that Chu Li could resist it. Chu Li sighed to himself. He was a disciple of the Amethyst Mountain, but he had always been distant from them and rarely contacted them. If it was not for the success of the Nature Restoration Manifestation, he might have really forgotten about the Amethyst Mountain. Moreover, the Amethyst Mountain had never contacted him, as if they did not know he was a disciple. The Amethyst Mountain did not forbid him from entering other sects, but the sect he wanted to enter the most was the Goddess Attraction Mountain, not the Ultimate Temple. There was no meaning in entering the Ultimate Temple, so he could only let their good intentions down. He slowly walked to the Sutra Library and gently hit the door with his palm. Buzz! The entire Sutra Library vibrated. This palm was extremely firm and powerful, causing the bronze door to tremble. Chu Li hit the door again. He could feel that the Sutra Library was protected by a formation, so if he wanted to enter, he needed to be patient enough to break the formation. He could also use the Deva shedding technique, but unfortunately, he was not very interested in the Sutra Library. He wanted to lure out the masters of the Church of the Divine Blood, not be beaten to the point of lying in the dark, using the formation to protect himself so that he could not use his strength. Buzz, buzz. Chu Li continuously hit the bronze door more than 10 times, but there was no other movement. Huh? Chu Li suddenly laughed. This is the Church of the Divine Blood? Everyone is a coward? His voice reverberated endlessly in the valley. Where's the arrogance of the Church of the Divine Blood? Chu Li continued to shout, provoking them. Where's the arrogance of the past? This is the Church of the Divine Blood? Don't call it the Church of the Divine Blood. Just call it the Church of the Tortoise. Everyone is a coward. His voice echoed in the ravine, but no one responded. It seemed like there was no one around. However, Chu Li knew that there must be a lot of people hiding. There were many masters in the Church of the Divine Blood, especially those who lived in seclusion. It was definitely beyond the imagination of ordinary people. Unfortunately, these people were really good at hiding. This was a big problem for him. They were overbearing when they should be, and they were patient when they should be. This kind of Church of the Divine Blood was extremely terrifying. If he could not beat them this time, and let them gain power again, the High Duke's public house would definitely be in trouble. Huang Tianhe? Chu Li continued to shout. You're the leader. Don't you dare to fight with a junior like me? Do you still have the face to be the leader? Just kill yourself. Chu Li's voice became louder and louder. What a big tone. A gentle voice was heard as if it was floating from the sky. I'm an isolated cultivation. I'll see you again when I come out. Chu Li said in a deep voice. All right, then I'll wait at the foot of your mountain. I'll kill every disciple of the Church of the Divine Blood that comes out. Chapter 1436. All right, great. Chu Li laughed out loud. I'm impressed. I like to see when you're going to open the mountain. When I come out of isolation, it will be the time to open the mountain. Huang Tina said faintly. Chu Li, you don't have to be so arrogant. One day, I will take your life. Chu Li laughed out loud. Then I'll be waiting. Of course, he could use the heaven-human shedding technique to enter the formation and kill another group of disciples of the Divine Blood Church. However, it was no longer necessary. It was better to keep some of the rich inner energy of the Supreme Vajra Supreme Scripture. This time, the Divine Blood Church was scared of him and did not dare to provoke him again. It would not be worthwhile to waste their rich inner energy. The news of the Church of the Divine Blood sealing off the mountain spread like wildfire throughout the Fu dynasty. Soon, it spread throughout the Ji dynasty as well. Chu Li's name was like the sun at high noon. In the evening, Chu Li was in the courtyard activating the soaring grass. He was preparing to refine some soaring pills for Xiao Qi to enhance her cultivation level. He also wanted to give some to Shui Ling, Jiang Kuai, and the others to quickly enhance their abilities. As his status and reputation grew, his opponents would become more and more powerful. Shui Ling and the others would become his weaknesses. He needed to fix these weaknesses. Xiao Qi gracefully entered the room. Her white robe fluttered as she approached Chu Li. She gently held the hem of her dress and sat opposite him. The Gloriesville tree was already lush and verdant, overflowing with spiritual energy. The air in the courtyard was especially fresh. Xiao Qi removed her white veil and revealed her fair face. I'm going to go into isolated cultivation again. Chu Li was stunned. You still need to go into isolated cultivation? Xiao Qi gently nodded. I've gained some insights. Maybe I can advance to the next level. Chu Li smiled. That's great. How long will you be in isolated cultivation for? Xiao Qi gently shook her head. Chu Li asked, to the Spirit Crane's Peak. I want to go to Snow Lunar Pavilion, Xiao Qi said. Chu Li was shocked. Snow Lunar Pavilion? Xiao Qi held Chu Li's hand and said softly, the Snow Lunar Pavilion's arcane realm is very suitable for the regal sword scripture. You'll be able to advance faster there. All right, Chu Li sighed. Actually, there's no need to cultivate so desperately. Moreover, I feel that this regal sword scripture is a little strange. It's better to cultivate it less. Chu Li liked Xiao Qi very much. It was because he was moved by her when his martial art was still weak. It was an instinctive feeling. Even though Chu Li's martial arts skills were far superior to hers and his status was extraordinary, in his eyes, Xiao Qi was still the noble and cold third lady of the High Duke's public house. It was a gift from God to have her. When the two of them were together, they didn't need to say any affectionate words. Just a glance from her occasionally and the faint fragrance of her body would make him feel at ease and comfortable. His heart would be at peace, as if he had the whole world in his hands. Xiao Qi liked him too, but she appeared to be very restrained and calm. When the two of them were together, they did not seem like newlyweds at all. Instead, they seemed like an old couple who had been together for decades. At the end of the day, they were still influenced by the regal sword scripture. Right now, he was the only one who could cause her emotions to fluctuate. It was difficult for others to affect her. She seemed to have gradually touched the threshold of Taishang Wangqing. She was no longer cold, but calm. Everything in the world was like flowing water flowing over a stone, quickly disappearing without a trace. Xiao Qi nodded. I want to try it out. Okay, I'll send you there. Chu Li could not refuse her request, so he gently said, don't rush for quick results. Take your time, and everything will come naturally. Xiao Qi smiled. What are you going to do after I leave? Chu Li said, I want to go to Goddess Attraction Mountain and see if I can enter it. It'll be difficult. Xiao Qi sighed. You don't have to be too stubborn. Your current cultivation level is enough to become an enlightened master. There must be two enlightened masters in a country. One was a scholar while the other was a martial artist. The scholar was the emperor, while the martial artist was the martial artist. This was the rule of the Outland. Every 100 years, 2 enlightened masters would be appointed. Whoever became the emperor would become an enlightened master. Whoever became the imperial emperor would also become an enlightened master. The so-called imperial emperor was the number 1 master below the age of 100. Chu Li's martial arts were outstanding and rare. Apart from enlightened masters, no one could compare to him. A year later, when an enlightened master from the Tempest Temple ascended to heaven, Chu Li would naturally be appointed as an enlightened master. Chu Li shook his head. I don't want to be appointed as an enlightened master by the Outland. I want to become an enlightened master myself. Try it then. Xiao Qi nodded. In the eyes of others, he had chosen the dangerous path instead of the easy one. He would definitely be mocked and ridiculed. However, she understood Chu Li's pride and wisdom. She knew that he had his reasons, and as his wife, she naturally had to support him. Chu Li smiled. Xiao Qi said, second eldest sister wants to return to King An's imperial residence. She's worried about Su, and I'll send her back to the imperial residence. You also have to be careful of enlightened masters. Xiao Qi hesitated before saying, for example, the emperor and the one from the Tempest Temple. Chu Li nodded in understanding. I understand. Xiao Qi sighed. The rest of the year won't be peaceful. It'll be best if you can enter Goddess Attraction Mountain. You'll be able to avoid the storm. She knew that Suan had no intention of taking the throne and was relieved. However, if Chu Li did not leave, His Highness the Crown Prince would not be at ease. He would definitely think a way to get rid of Chu Li, who was a threat. The Tempest Temple would not sit back and watch as an enlightened master fell on him. An enlightened master might not kill him because of Fa Yuan, but he would definitely be crippled of his martial arts. He was in a dangerous situation with enemies everywhere. It would be best if he could escape to Goddess Attraction Mountain. Outsiders could not enter Goddess Attraction Mountain. Furthermore, Goddess Attraction Mountain was highly respected, so no one would dare to touch it. Chu Li said, I'll try my best. Then let's go, Xiao Qi said. Chu Li stood up and held her waist. The two of them disappeared and reappeared at Snow Lunar Pavilion. Shuning Hu was dressed in a green gown. She sat in the gazebo above the lake and was lost in thought. She was lonely and could not help herself. Chu Li sent Xiao Qi to the gazebo. He closed fists, saluted Shun Inghu, who looked up and disappeared. The next moment, he reappeared at Symphony Island. Xiao Shi was admiring the flowers in the gazebo. When she saw him, she waved at him. Chu Li went forward and asked, second eldest sister, are you going back to the imperial residence? Yes, let's go, Xiao Shi said. Suan should have reached the imperial residence. Chu Li did not say much. He held her sleeve, and the two of them returned to Tianshu Courtyard in King An's imperial residence. King An's imperial residence was calm. When the two of them appeared, the protectors outside the Tianshu Courtyard became nervous. Chu Li's gaze swept across and saw Suan meditating in a room. The room was simple and elegant. The other two princesses were chatting leisurely in the back garden, exuding a lazy aura. The inside of the Wang Fu was gloomy. The two princesses were not even 30 years old, but they were already like two old people. Chu Li shook his head and sighed. It seemed that he had to find something for them to do. If this continued, the imperial residence would really fall apart. Chu Li came out of Tianshu Courtyard and went to the main hall. He found a few stewards and scolded them. Under the authority of the head chief, the originally carefree imperial residence was once again busy. Chu Li was strict with his rules. He was clear with rewards and punishments. He sent out tasks to the imperial residence's scribes and maids. He kept them busy and could not rest. They could not let their imagination run wild. The huge prince's mansion immediately became lively and full of vitality. In the evening, Chu Li was talking with Su in the main hall. Although the imperial residence's study was the quietest and most suitable for idle chatter, he did not enter the study. He still followed his duty as the chief and did not overstep his boundaries. Suddenly, Chief Zhu's footsteps came from outside. He stood outside the hall and said carefully, Head Chief, A letter was thrown into the imperial residence. "It's for the head chief." "Bring it up," Chu said. Chief Zhu entered the main hall quietly. He closed fists, saluted, and handed over a letter. Chu reached out and took it. He tore open the envelope and opened the letter. A line of small lines appeared in front of him. His expression changed. It was Sun Mingyue's handwriting. Chapter 1437. The long and straight handwriting was particularly unique, and Chu could recognize it at a glance. There was a line of words written on it, but there were only 6 words. Goddess Attraction Mountain, Divine Light Basilica. Chu frowned and pondered. Suan looked at him, his clear eyes filled with curiosity. Not only was he curious about the words on the letter, but he was also curious about Chu. Even though he was in the imperial residence of King Un, he had heard of Chu Li's name. He was now the undisputed #1 youth master. His reputation even surpassed Du Feng. Chu Li of the north and Du Feng of the south. Du Feng had been missing for a long time. People thought that Du Feng was able to withstand an enlightened master's attack and was far superior to Chu Li. Now that Chu Li had displayed his prowess, people realized that he was worthy of his reputation. It was not by luck that he was on par with Du Feng. Chu Li might even be better than Du Feng. He felt like a mother to Xiao Shi, close and adored her. His feelings for Chu Li were more complicated and not as deep. Chu Li's concern for him was not as direct as Xiao Shi's. Chu Li took care of him silently. He knew it, but was too embarrassed to express his gratitude. Chu Li gently rubbed the letter, and it turned into powder that fell to the ground. He sighed and tried not to think about Sun Mingyue. He thought that they would never meet again. To avoid awkwardness, both of them would try their best to forget about that period of time. He did not expect Sun Mingyue to write to him so soon. "Head Chief, what is it?" Suan asked. Chu Li shook his head. "I have some personal matters to attend to. I need to leave for a few days." "All right." Suan nodded. "I won't leave the fairy's capital. I won't cause any trouble." Chu Li smiled. "You won't cause trouble, but when it comes, you don't have to retreat. Just fight back. As a young prince, you have enough power and confidence to do whatever you want." If it was someone else, he would restrain them to prevent them from doing anything. However, Suan grew up in the Titanium Temple. He was quiet and introverted. He was obedient too. Chu Li needed to encourage him to be aggressive. No matter how strong one's martial arts was, one's temperament was needed. If one's temperament was like a sheep, no matter how strong one's martial arts was, it would be useless. Suan nodded. Chu Li said, "As a young prince, as long as you don't kill anyone, you will be fine. No matter how important it is, you can solve it." "I understand." Suan nodded. Chu Li waved his hand. "Tell the princess that I'm leaving." With that, he stepped out of the hall and disappeared from Suan's sight. Suan knew that this was the god's limbs, one of the sacred arts of the Vajra Temple. It was a sacred art that he had yet to master. Chu Li suddenly appeared at the foot of the Great Light Peak and changed his appearance to that of Zhao De. After entering the Great Light Peak, he returned to his original appearance and suddenly appeared in the Divine Light Basilica. The Great Light Peak was protected by a formation and was heavily guarded. If he was not Zhao De, it would be very difficult for him to enter the peak without being noticed unless he used the Heavenly Shedding Technique. However, the Heavenly Shedding Technique consumed one's lifespan, so it was best not to use it. The bright and beautiful sunlight illuminated the Light Palace, making it bright and gentle. Sun Mingyue was sitting behind the long table, dressed in white with a white veil covering her face. Only her clear eyes could be seen as she read the files, her expression calm and peaceful. Chu Li appeared in a flash. She put down the dossier and looked up at him. Chu Li looked at her. They had not seen each other for only a few days, but felt like a long time had passed. It was as if a lifetime had passed. "You're here," Sun Mingyue said calmly. Her voice was calm and indifferent, without a trace of emotion, as if she was talking to a stranger. Chu Li nodded. Sun Mingyue said, "Is it because of Goddess Attraction Mountain?" Chu Li replied, "Yes. You're so impressive now. You forced the Church of the Divine Blood to seal off their mountains." "You're truly arrogant," Sun Mingyue said. Chu Li could hear the sarcasm in his words. I was forced into a corner. Sun Mingwe scoffed. Aren't you afraid of provoking public anger? It can't be helped. Chu Li shook his head. He knew what Sun Mingwe meant. If he was from a martial arts world of the Fu dynasty, the martial arts world of the Fu dynasty would only admire and respect him for beating up the Church of the Divine Blood to this extent. However, he was from the Ji dynasty, so the martial arts world of the Fu dynasty would only be more hostile. He was so domineering that all the people in the martial arts world of the Fu dynasty would be on their guard. They would want to get rid of him, and it was even possible that several sects would join forces to get rid of him in secret. Every day that he showed off his might would damage the authority of the Fu dynasty. Sun Mingwe said indifferently, "You must enter Goddess Attraction Mountain." Chu Li nodded. "Do you have any ideas? The royal family of Dali has a quota this year. I've already gotten it for you." Sun Mingwe said, "You can enter Goddess Attraction Mountain and become an Outer Mountain disciple. You can stay there for a year." Chu Li raised his eyebrows and stared at her bright eyes. Sun Mingwe looked at him calmly. "But I have a condition." "Say it," Chu Li said. Sun Mingwe said, "I'll be there at your beck and call." Chu Li frowned. "What do you mean? I still need Zhao Dai to calm the people down for now. Moreover, the Holy Church of Light's strength has been greatly damaged, so I need Zhao Dai's help," Sun Mingwe said. Chu Li asked, "Once I enter Goddess Attraction Mountain, I can't come out, right? I can come out at any time." Sun Mingwe shook her head. "It's not that Goddess Attraction Mountain's disciples can't leave the mountain, but they don't want to. As long as they don't spend more than half of their time at the foot of the mountain, it's fine." "What if I don't agree?" Chu Li asked. Sun Mingwe remained silent and picked up the dossier. Chu Li sighed. "What identity should I use to enter Goddess Attraction Mountain?" "Chu Li," Sun Mingwe said. Chu Li frowned. If he entered Goddess Attraction Mountain using his original identity, and the Ji dynasty found out, they would definitely treat him as a traitor of the Ji dynasty, who knew how much trouble it would cause. However, if he did not enter with his original identity, it would only make things worse. The heavenly demonic power might not be able to fool Goddess Attraction Mountain. Once they found out about the heavenly demonic power, they would immediately expel him, and he would not have the chance to learn the dragon taming technique. Sun Mingwe said, "Don't worry, this is a secret. Only a few people know about it." "What about my identity?" Chu Li scoffed. "Aren't you afraid of arousing suspicion?" If his identity was exposed, the Ji dynasty would certainly be suspicious, and the Li dynasty would also suspect Sun Mingwe of colluding with the Ji dynasty. Sun Mingwe said, "Do you really think you can fool Goddess Attraction Mountain?" Chu Li pondered. Sun Mingwe said, "There's no need to put on a show in front of the disciples of Goddess Attraction Mountain. Nothing can be hidden. But don't worry, they don't care about the secular world. Whether you're Chu Li or Zhao Dai, they won't care." "All right," Chu Li slowly nodded. "I agree to your condition." "Very well, there's one more thing," Sun Mingwe said. Chu Li raised his eyebrows and looked at her. Sun Mingwe said, "Go to the reincarnation temple to seek revenge." "All right," Chu Li smiled. Sun Mingwe said, "This is extremely dangerous. I might not be able to return." "Let's do it first," Chu Li said. Sun Mingwe said, "Do you hate that old monk that much?" Chu Li nodded. Sun Mingwe laughed coldly. "If it wasn't for that old monk, would you have your current cultivation level?" Chu Li frowned at her. "Are you actually grateful to him?" "He killed my former self," Sun Mingwe said. "I need to seek revenge." Chapter 1438. Chu Li suddenly smiled. "You're not just going against the reincarnation temple for revenge, right?" Monk Luan Ming plotted against them. As an enlightened master, it was despicable of him to do so, but because of him, both of them benefited greatly. Although their cultivation methods were different, their cultivation levels were greatly improved. Hence, Monk Luan Ming did not have a deep grudge against them. Their gratitude and grudges offset each other, so it would be difficult for them to seek revenge from him. Sun Mingwe said, "It's not purely a personal grudge, it's also to establish our authority. The church has been unstable lately, and the people outside are getting restless. We need to let them know how powerful the Holy Church is." Chu Li smiled and shook his head. With the bishop around, why do we need to do this? Master has been an isolated cultivation, and everyone knows that enlightened masters can't attack at will, so they're not afraid, Sun Mingwe said. Chu Li smiled in realization. I see. When do we attack? Today, Sun Mingwe said. Chu Li said, all right, I've always wanted to teach that old monk Luan Ming a lesson. Sun Mingwe glanced at him and said, you can still attack? I heard that you've dealt with many Church of the Divine Blood Masters. I'm afraid you don't have any strength left. Both of them knew the details of the Supreme Diamond Scripture. The most powerful, rich inner energy was limited and only filled up 6 wheels. Once it was used up, it would not appear again. The Nirvana wheel continued to absorb the strange aura of heaven and earth. It seemed to be an aura that came from beyond the heavens. It was extremely yin and extremely cold, or extremely yang and extremely hard. Without the two of them cultivating together, these extreme energies could not be transformed into mellow energy. Its might was only slightly stronger than their current inner energy. Chu Li smiled at her. He was not worried that his rich energy was not enough because once both of them worked together, their energies would merge into one. When they were separated, it would be divided evenly and Sun Mingyue's rich energy would be replenished for him. Sun Mingyue scoffed. Don't worry, I'm not like you. As a saint, she rarely had the chance to fight. Everything was handled by her subordinates. Chu Li nodded. Then let's go look for Luan Ming. Sun Mingyue stood up and walked to him. Chu Li reached out and grabbed her sleeve. Both of them disappeared and appeared at the peak of the mountain, in front of the valley that they were trapped in for 2 months. Looking at the dark valley below, Xiao Chun could not see the end. With the 10 absolute origin ceiling formation, he could not see what was going on inside. Who would have thought that an evil dark dragon that had been trapped here for more than 1,000 years? Chu Li looked down with a complicated expression. He shook his head and said, it seems like this old monk has noticed. Once they appeared, Monk Luan Ming should have sensed the two of them, but he did not appear to kill them. It was obvious that he had sensed them. The senses of a heavenly god expert were sharper. Sun Mingyue said, just go straight to the reincarnation temple. The monk can escape, but the temple can't. Chu Li nodded. In the evening, the setting sun dyed the solemn and mysterious reincarnation temple red. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue stood outside the reincarnation temple and watched as the solemn monastery shimmered with golden light under the setting sun. The sound of Sanskrit drifted out of the temple. It was ethereal and holy, and people could not help but feel a sense of respect. Chu Li turned to look at her. Have you made up your mind? Although they felt that they could fight against an Empyrean god, they did not dare to say that they could really defeat an Empyrean god. If they failed, it would be very difficult for them to escape unscathed. Therefore, this operation was quite risky. Sun Mingyue said in a low voice, didn't we already decide? Back when they were in the 10 absolute vitality ceiling formation, they had said that they would settle the score with the reincarnation temple once they got out of the formation. Unfortunately, their master found them as soon as they got out of the formation, so they could not fulfill their wish. Chu Li said, all right, let's go in then. Then he raised his voice and shouted, Monk Luan Ming, come out. As he spoke, the two of them held each other's palms. Their breaths were connected, and their rich inner energy was released along with their voices. Suddenly, it was as if a huge thunder exploded in the sky, suppressing the sound of Sanskrit chanting in the entire reincarnation temple. Boom, boom. The bronze bell of the reincarnation temple shook violently and let out a roar. The entire reincarnation temple seemed to be shaking. This was the tyrannical power of an enlightened master. The door of the reincarnation temple suddenly opened, and a group of red-robed monks floated out. They separated into 2 rows on both sides, and then 3 old monks slowly walked out. All of them had 8 ring scars on their heads, and their bald heads shone brightly under the setting sun. The 3 old monks came before Chu Li and Sun Mingyue and bowed with pressed palms. Namo Amitba, Chu Li scoffed. Where is Monk Luan Ming? Greetings, almsgivers. The 3 old monks bowed with pressed palms again. The leading monk was tall and burly, and he looked honest and steady. He said slowly, "Masters Junior Lun Ming has gone out. Almsgivers, why are you looking for Masters Junior Lun Ming? The saint of the Holy Church of Light is here to seek justice," Chu Li said in a low voice. "Monk Lun Ming is an enlightened master, but he sneakily attacked a grandmaster. It's really despicable. So it's Almsgiver Sun and Almsgiver Chu." The honest monk bowed with pressed palms. Shifa. Chu Li waved his hand. "Monk Shifa, don't waste time here. Is Monk Luan Ming in the temple?" Monk Shifa shook his head. "I'm not lying. Masters Junior is indeed not in the temple. He has already found another place to isolate himself." Chu Li scoffed. "Then where is he?" Monk Shifa sighed helplessly. "Masters Junior Luan Ming's whereabouts are erratic, and it's not something we can know. If you're really looking for Masters Junior Luan Ming, why don't you come back in a year?" Chu Li cannot help but laugh. "I'm sure you have a way to invite Monk Luan Ming back, right? Do it now. Don't force us to use unyielding methods. It'll damage the vitality of the reincarnation temple." Monk Shifa looked troubled. "Almsgiver Chu, we really can't do it. Please forgive us." Chu Li turned to look at Chu Li. Could it be that Monk Luan Ming already predicted that we would seek revenge from him? Sun Minghua frowned. "I don't think so. Then why did he escape in advance? Perhaps he sensed that something was wrong. It's the instinct of an enlightened master to seek good fortune and avoid calamity." Sun Minghua said. "Looks like we can't be merciful." Chu Li nodded. He could tell that Monk Shifa's words were not entirely truthful. His honest appearance was purely a lie. Chu Li lightly struck out with his palm. Sun Minghua struck out with her fist. Their fists and palms combined, and their forces had already merged. "Namo Amitba." Monk Shifa chanted with pressed palms and slowly pushed out his palms with a solemn expression. Bang! Monk Shifa was sent flying for more than 10 meters before crashing into the wall. He hung there, unable to move. Chu Li and Sun Minghua continued to attack. The remaining 2 old monks were just about to make a move when they were sent flying. Their bodies crashed into the wall and were unable to land. Together with Monk Shifa, the 3 of them formed a line and glared at Chu Li and Sun Minghua in shock and anger. They knew that Chu Li and Sun Minghua were powerful, but they did not expect them to be this powerful. Chu Li and Sun Minghua continued to attack. 1 punch and 1 palm. Soon, more than 10 monks in red were hung on the wall. They lined up neatly with Monk Shifa and the others. The corners of their mouths were stained with blood. They were severely injured and could no longer move. Hearing the commotion, another 20 monks in red rushed out of the temple and pounced on Chu Li and Sun Minghua. The 2 of them stood in the same spot and attacked with their fists and palms. Not a single one of them missed. Every time they attacked, someone would be hung on the wall. Chapter 1439. Both of them did not use too much force and only heavily injured the monks. Although they lost the ability to continue fighting, it was not fatal. Their inner energy was limited and could not be wasted. They wanted to use as little as possible. Both of them had no intention of cultivating together again. Once they left the ravine, it was as if they were in another world. The environment was different and the state of mind was different. It was impossible for them to cultivate the supreme diamond scripture again. Namo Amitba. Dozens of red-robed monks rushed out of the temple. They put their palms together and moved silently but quickly. Their Buddhist chants echoed throughout the reincarnation temple. Streaks of white and black light flickered as the sun and moon wheels danced in the air, covering the 2 of them. Ding ding. Their fists and palms hit the sun and moon wheels. Bang bang. They hit the owner of the sun and moon wheels and hung them on the wall. The walls of the huge monastery were already filled with red-robed monks. They were neatly spread out, and it was a magnificent sight. The monks' sorrowful chants echoed and shook the entire reincarnation temple. They had never been humiliated like this. Nameless karmic fire burned fiercely. They wanted to kill Chu Li and Sun Minghua with the reincarnation palm. Chu Li and Sun Minghua shook their heads. The reincarnation temple was powerful indeed. There were many top-notch masters coming out of the temple. They were getting older, and their cultivation level was getting higher. They looked at each other. If this went on, they would be exhausted by the monks of the reincarnation temple before they could see old monk Luan Ming. Chu Li turned his head and said, "I'm going to use the musical assassination technique." Sun Mingwen nodded. The rich inner energy quickly circulated according to the musical assassination technique. Then there was a long whistle that shook the heavens and the clouds. It was as if the surroundings of the reincarnation temple were shattered. The reincarnation temple quieted down, and the Sanskrit chants disappeared. The red-robed monks who were rushing out swayed as if they were drunk. Chu Li and Sun Mingwei transformed into phantoms and sent the monks outside the temple flying. The walls of the reincarnation temple were filled with hanging objects, leaving no room for anyone to hang on. The monks in the temple swayed as if they were drunk. They could not withstand the musical assassination technique. The musical assassination technique activated by the rich inner energy was no different from enlightened master's attack. There were very few monks in the reincarnation temple who could withstand a strike from enlightened master. Most of them collapsed and sat down cross-legged to heal their injuries. Otherwise, their injuries would be too severe to recover and might even endanger their lives. The entire world fell silent, and there were no more red-robed monks. Chu Li smiled at Sun Mingwei and said, "This is how it should be from the beginning." Sun Mingwei rolled her eyes at him. At the beginning, there weren't that many monks coming out. It would be a waste to do so, and it would be better to just knock them down. The monks hanging on the wall revealed pained expressions and began to vomit blood. Their injuries worsened. However, Chu Li had avoided their positions while he was howling, so he was the least affected and would not lose his life. Namo Amiba. An old monk walked out slowly and stopped in front of the two of them. Chu Li said, "If old monk Lin Ming doesn't return soon, the reincarnation temple will really be destroyed." The reincarnation temple cannot be destroyed. The old monk was skinny, as if he could be blown away by a gust of wind. His face was thin, and he had 3 wisps of beard under his chin. He had a sage-like aura. A string of prayer beads the size of a baby's fist hung around his neck. They were so dark that they seemed to be able to steal all the light from the surroundings, and people could not help but stare at them. Chu Li took a closer look at the string of prayer beads and frowned. "Who are you, old monk?" "I'm Shanji," the old monk said slowly. Chu Li asked, "Shanji? What does that have to do with monk Ji Shan?" Ji shook his head. "He's just a disciple. Ji Shan was harmed by you, right?" Chu Li smiled. "That's a joke. Monk Ji Shan has no grudge against me. Even if Ji Shan died, he would not admit that he was only here to take revenge on monk Luan Ming for his sneak attack." Shanji removed the black prayer beads from his neck slowly. Suddenly, the sound of chanting could be heard from inside the temple. Then, the monks who were healing on the ground started chanting as well. Even the monks hanging on the wall started chanting as well. They were chanting the same Buddhist scripture. The string of black Buddhist beads immediately emitted a layer of faint brilliance. Shanji suddenly threw the prayer beads at Chu Li and Sun Mingwei slowly and calmly. The chanting grew louder as the black prayer beads slowly shot toward the two of them. Chu Li and Sun Mingwei were on guard, as the string of prayer beads was too powerful. Although they did not know what they were up to, they knew that it was not a small battle. Sun Mingwei lightly threw a punch. Bang! The divine light fist hit the prayer beads, and a dull sound was heard. Then, the faint glow expanded and spread. The scenery in front of Sun Mingwei suddenly changed, and she was back in the 10 ultimate vitality lock formation. She knew that this was not good. Her mind was clear, and she had fallen into Shanji's trap. It could be an illusion, or they could have been transported here through the void. She did not act on her own. Instead, she looked around and saw that her clothes were intact. It was the same as when she fought. Then, she looked at Chu Li. He was dressed the same. However, the two of them were in the cave. "Chu Li?" Sun Mingwei asked. Chu Li closed his eyes and shook his head. "This is an illusion." Sun Mingwei frowned and was about to speak. Bang! Her back was hit, and she was instantly sent flying. She was almost separated from Chu Li's palm. A strange force came from Chu Li's palm. The originally pure palm energy was instantly weakened when it came into contact with this force. It quickly melted like ice and snow meeting boiling water. Her internal organs quickly recovered to their original state. She knew that Shanji had sneaked an attack on her, but she could not see him. She was still in the cave and could not escape the illusion. She was extremely surprised. In terms of the strength of the soul, she was blessed by nature. She was gifted, and no one could surpass her except Chu Li. Even her master's talent was far inferior to hers. Logically, this kind of illusion was the hardest to enchant, but she could not break free from it. Could the secret skill of the reincarnation temple be so powerful? Moo! Chu Li suddenly shouted. Sun Mingyue's vision changed and became clear again. Shanji was hitting her chest with his palm. Bang! She threw out her divine light fist, and Shanji was instantly sent flying. The Sanskrit chanting suddenly became louder. Sun Mingyue's vision changed again, and she was back in the cave. A warm feeling lingered in her heart, but it made her even angrier. She wanted to kill this Shanji. Chu Li closed his eyes. His beard and hair fluttered, and his clothes fluttered. It was as if he was in a strong wind. His expression was solemn as he made a seal with one hand. Ma! He shouted. His voice was like a bronze bell that drowned out the Sanskrit chanting of the monks. Sun Mingyue's vision returned to normal. She saw Shanji stand up and wipe the corner of his mouth before he pounced at her again. She sneered and threw another punch. This Shanji was able to take her punch. His cultivation level was really high. Unfortunately, no matter how high he was, he could not take a second punch. Namo Amipa, a loud Buddha's name, was suddenly heard. A palm energy that covered the sky, and the earth met Sun Mingyue. Bang! Sun Mingyue felt a mighty force coming from the palm. Her body could not help but be sent flying. Chapter 1440. Chu Li kept the prayer beads in his sleeve and looked at Monk Luanming. Monk, we're here for revenge. Namo Amipa. Monk Luanming pressed his palms together and smiled. Almsgivers, you've benefited from your misfortune. Looks like that ravine is a place of fortuitous encounters. I'm curious to find out what's inside. As an enlightened master, his senses were extremely sensitive. He was in sync with the heavens and the earth. He did not expect that this ominous sign would come from these two. 2 months ago, they were just top-notch grandmasters who could not even withstand a single blow from him. Now that they were working together, he felt a sense of danger. It was obvious that their fortuitous encounters had greatly improved their cultivation. It was obvious that these two had a fortuitous encounter in that ravine. That was why they came to seek revenge. He smiled. I'll send someone to check it out. Chu Li chuckled. We really did have a fortuitous encounter. Monk, why don't you send someone to check it out? However, the person who goes might not be as lucky as us. You should know that fortuitous encounters come hand in hand with danger. Namo Amitba, Monk Luanming said slowly. This is the truth of heaven and earth. Chu Li said, you're an enlightened master, but you ambushed us. If I don't get my revenge, I won't be able to calm down. I'm here to seek revenge. Monk Luanming, why did you run away and embarrass the enlightened masters? I'm just out for some business. Monk Luanming shook his head and smiled. No matter how weak I am, I won't be afraid of the two of you. Chu Li smiled. Whether I'm afraid or not, you know it yourself. Watch my palm. He struck with his palm. Monk Luanming dodged to the side, but Sun Mingyue's silent punch had already arrived. Bam! Monk Luanming reached out to receive the punch. The three of them each took a step back. Great! Enlightened masters are really powerful, Chu Li said excitedly. He was finally certain that they could fight enlightened masters. Instantly, his fighting spirit surged. He had wanted to deal with enlightened masters for a long time. They had pressured him too much. If he could not break their mysteriousness and power, it would be difficult for him to become an enlightened master. Bam, 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 bam. Fist and palm collided. Every time a dull explosion was heard, it was as if thunder had exploded beside their ears. The monks from the reincarnation temple who were healing vomited blood. The explosive sound of the collision was enough to cause them to suffer internal injuries. If not for the efficacy of the secret medicine of the Reincarnation Temple, they would have died and their souls returned to the Reincarnation Temple. Although Chu Li and Sun Mingyue were a pair, they could only use 2 hands. Compared to Monk Luan Ming, they did not have any advantage. However, the flow of energy between the two of them, their minds were one, and their transformation of energy was better. For a moment, the 3 of them were in a deadlock. Fists and palms came and went, but they couldn't suppress each other. Chu Li suddenly felt that something was amiss and quickly shouted, "Be careful!" A surging palm energy suddenly appeared and struck the 2 people's tightly clenched palms. Chu Li turned around and countered with a palm strike. However, it was already too late. The palm was too fast. His body had only turned halfway when the palm energy arrived. Bang! The palm force was extremely fierce and overbearing, wanting to shake off the 2's tightly clasped hands. Both of their auras slowed down, and they were no longer at their peak. Monk Luan Ming followed up with 2 palm strikes. Wherever the reincarnation palm force passed, there would be faint ripples in the surroundings. The air seemed to have turned into lake water. Bang! Chu Li's palm met with the person who attacked him, and Sun Mingyue's fist met with the reincarnation palm. The 2 of them flew 10 meters away and crashed into a huge pine tree. At this moment, the person who attacked them appeared. He was dressed in a bright yellow robe, and his body was tall and straight like a pine tree standing in the void. He was a handsome middle-aged man with a jade-like face and a deep sense of majesty. He stood side by side with Monk Luan Ming, quietly watching Chu Li and Sun Mingyue. Even though they almost vomited blood from the impact, they still did not let go of each other. Once they let go, their strength would plummet, and it would be difficult to deal with the 2 enlightened masters. Chu Li said in a deep voice, "The Qiu dynasty's emperor." The handsome middle-aged man placed his hands behind his back, and his bright yellow robe fluttered. He said slowly, "I am the Qiu dynasty's emperor." "Who are you?" Chu Li frowned. "I am Chu Li from the Ji dynasty." He knew that the Qiu dynasty's emperor's surname was Chun Jinji. The Ji dynasty? Chun Jinji sized him up with a calm gaze and nodded slowly. "I have heard of your name. The Ji dynasty's #1 youth master. You live up to your reputation." He glanced at Sun Mingyue. Monk Luan Ming smiled. "Your Majesty, this is the saint of the Li dynasty's Holy Church of Light." "Oh." Chun Jinji was shocked. The Li dynasty and the Ji dynasty? As far as he knew, the 2 nations were mortal enemies, and their relationship was even worse than that of the Qiu dynasty and the Li dynasty. It was impossible for them to work together. Looking at the 2 of them holding each other's hands tightly, it was clear that they were a couple. Furthermore, both of their statuses were incredible. Since they were together, it would definitely cause a huge storm if it was made known to the world. The relationship between the Qiu dynasty and the Ji dynasty was not bad. They befriended the distant Li dynasty and attacked the nearby ones. Because the Qiu dynasty and the Ji dynasty had a common enemy, the Li dynasty, they often cooperated with each other, even though the Qiu dynasty looked down on the Ji dynasty. Chu Li muttered, "I didn't expect the 2 of you to join forces. If the 2 of you can join hands, what's so strange about me joining hands with Master Luan Ming?" Chun Jinji smiled with his hands behind his back. "You're so young, yet you're able to stop us. Master Luan Ming feels that you're a threat, so he asked for my help." Chu Li frowned. "It seems like the 2 of you want to get rid of us." "Not bad," Chun Jinji said slowly. "As grandmasters, you can threaten enlightened masters. How can I rest in peace if I don't get rid of you?" He was extremely fearful of Chu Li and Sun Mingyue. As an enlightened master, there were many restrictions. Usually, they could not attack grandmasters unless their families' lives were in danger. However, Chu Li and Sun Mingyue were not enlightened masters, so they were not bound by the heavenly rules and could kill at will. In this way, if the 2 of them wanted to destroy the Qiu dynasty's foundation, no one could stop them other than himself and Monk Luan Ming. Even if they wanted to stop them, it would be difficult. The 2 of them could appear and disappear unpredictably. They could kill with one palm strike and escape after that, so it would be difficult to catch up. Even if they caught up and fought, they might not be able to stop them. The battle between enlightened masters was earth-shattering, and the aftermath could kill grandmasters. Killing grandmasters was as easy as flipping one's hand, so the two of them must be eliminated. Otherwise, the Qiu dynasty would never have a peaceful day. Chu Li and Sun Mingyue's aura circulated and quickly returned to normal. Although the enlightened master's attack was fierce, the two's mellow aura was extremely strange. They could actually block it and even dissipate it. However, after this attack, the two's mellow aura was rapidly consumed, and they could not hold on for long. Chu Li said, "Then let's experience the power of an enlightened master." As soon as he said that, he punched out with the Divine Light Fist. Sun Mingyue also used the Divine Light Fist. The two of them had the same heart technique, so when they activated the mellow aura, it was exceptionally smooth and their power was greatly increased. It was actually stronger than their palm and fist. Bam, 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 bam. Chen Jinji and Monk Luanming clashed head-on. Where the palm energy met, the sky rippled and then spread out. Wherever the ripples passed, everything was blasted away. A layer of golden light appeared in the sky above the reincarnation temple and turned into a golden sphere that enveloped the temple. Wherever the ripples passed, the golden splendor flashed and blocked the ripples' erosion. As for the places that were not blocked by the golden splendor, the soil on the ground was swept up and the trees were directly blasted into pieces. In a short while, the 100-meter radius around them became barren. Not a single blade of grass remained, and the trees were gone. Chapter 1441. Namo Amipa. Monk Luanming instantly appeared in the air 100 feet away. His red cowl fluttered in the wind. He ignored the blood at the corner of his mouth and put his palms together as he stared at a certain spot in the air. A white figure suddenly appeared in the air and stood there quietly. His clothes were as white as snow, and his face was covered with a white veil. Only a pair of gem-like eyes could be seen. "Master!" Sun Mingyue was shocked. Chu Li shook his head helplessly. The bishop of the Holy Church of Light, Song Wanqing, scoffed. "You're an enlightened master, but you're so shameless." Chun Jinji sighed and shook his head. "No wonder the old monk asked for my help. It's because of Miss Song." Song Wanqing did not even look at him. She stared at Monk Luanming. "Old monk, you've got guts." Monk Luanming put his palms together and smiled. "You flatter me. Who gave you the guts to plot against my disciple? I'll tear your old bones apart today and send you straight to the Grandmaster's boundary." Song Wanqing said coldly, "Almsgiver Song, I didn't kill her. I was just warning your disciple. Otherwise, she would have been dead." Monk Luanming shook his head. "You're a monk, spouting nonsense the moment you open your mouth." Song Wanqing laughed coldly. "If it wasn't for Mingyue's deep cultivation, she wouldn't have been able to take a hit from you. It's not that you didn't want to kill her, it's that you couldn't." Namo Amipa. Monk Luanming shook his head. "Almsgiver Song has misunderstood me too much." "Bullsh asterisk T." Song Wanqing shouted. Misunderstanding." She turned and stared at Chun Jinji. "If you can kill my disciple, then I can also kill your son?" "Miss Song." Chun Jinji shook his head. "That's against the rules. You're the ones who broke the rules first. If anything happens to Mingyue, I'll bury the entire Qin clan with her. I'll do what I say." Song Wanqing said coldly. Chun Jinji shook his head. "I didn't mean to kill her." Song Wanqing was not a reasonable person, and she was extremely protective. If he really killed Sun Mingyue, his Chun clan would indeed be in danger, so his idea was to cripple Sun Mingyue's martial arts. However, judging from the few moves they had exchanged, Sun Mingyue and Chu Li could only unleash such power when they worked together. Once the two of them were separated, they would not be able to unleash such power. In that case, the threat would be greatly reduced. Moreover, the best way was to kill Chu Li. No matter how strong Sun Mingyue was, there was nothing she could do. His mind raced, but he remained calm. Chu Li frowned as he glanced at him. He could vaguely guess what he was thinking. It seemed like he had to go to Goddess Attraction Mountain, or else he would be doomed. Song Wanqing stared at Chu Li a few times. Chu Li smiled and nodded, but he did not let go of Sun Mingyue's hand. Sun Mingyue held his hand tightly, afraid that he would let go. Once she let go, she did not know what her master would do. Would he take the opportunity to get rid of Chu Li with the three of them? Monk Luan Ming smiled and said, "Almsgiver Song, please enter the temple and have a cup of tea. I don't dare to drink from your reincarnation temple." Song Wanqing sneered. "Luan Ming, you're despicable and shameless. You might even plot against me. Let's call it a day." She then glanced at Chun Jinji. "What do you think?" Chun Jinji smiled and nodded. "I'll leave it to you, Miss Song. You make it sound so nice." Song Wanqing sneered and looked at Sun Mingyue. "Let's go back." Sun Mingyue nodded and disappeared in front of everyone with Chu Li. Song Wanqing stared coldly at Chun Jinji and Monk Luan Ming before slowly disappearing into the void. Seeing that the three of them had disappeared, Monk Luan Ming put his palms together and sighed. It's really the misfortune of the Qiu dynasty and the reincarnation temple. Master, there's no need to be like this. The reincarnation temple didn't suffer any casualties. Chun Jinji smiled. It seems like these two young fellows know their limits. Although there weren't any casualties, their strength was greatly reduced. This technique is extremely vicious. Monk Luan Ming sighed. The monks of the reincarnation temple did not die, but it would not be easy to recover from such serious injuries. Firstly, it would require a huge amount of spirit pills. Secondly, it would take time. There were even some who could not recover, and their martial arts would be crippled, requiring them to cultivate again. In short, the reincarnation temple had suffered a heavy blow this time. It would take a long time for them to recover. Seeing this, Chun Jinji was secretly happy. It was not a good thing for the reincarnation temple to be too powerful. It was not a good thing for the imperial family and the imperial court. Now that the reincarnation temple was injured, it was time for the imperial family and the imperial court to strengthen their forces. In a gazebo in a small courtyard at Great Light Peak, Song Wanqing sat in front of a stone table and sized him up with a cold gaze. Chu Li looked at her calmly and did not say a word. Song Wanqing also remained silent. After a while, Chu Li gave a fist salute. "Thank you for saving me, Senior. It was extremely dangerous this time." Two enlightened masters had joined forces. The two of them might be able to hold them off for now, but as the mellow aura weakened or even disappeared, the two of them would definitely lose, and even lose their lives. The aura accumulated in their 6 wheels was enough to deal with an enlightened master, but not 2 enlightened masters. More importantly, the 2 enlightened masters had joined forces. Not only could the two of them not kill each other, but they would also be killed instead. After all, the two of them were not enlightened masters. "I'm not saving you. I'm saving Mingyue." Song Wanqing scoffed. Chu Li nodded. Song Wanqing said, "You're in great danger now. You can only hide at Great Light Peak." Chu Li smiled. "I want to go to Goddess Attraction Mountain." "Humph, Goddess Attraction Mountain." Song Wanqing's expression changed slightly. She said impatiently, "Do you think it's that easy to enter Goddess Attraction Mountain?" Chu Li said, "You won't know until you try. It's not that easy to enter Goddess Attraction Mountain." Song Wanqing scoffed. "They can only protect you for a year. After a year, you'll still have to die." Outer Mountain disciples could only stay for a year. This was a rule of Goddess Attraction Mountain, and no one could be exempted from it. Chu Li smiled. "Who knows what will happen after a year? After a year, Mingyue will become an enlightened master." Song Wanqing said, "You're no longer worthy of Mingyue." Chu Li nodded and did not refute her. Song Wanqing scoffed. "You entered Goddess Attraction Mountain to cultivate the dragon taming technique and become a god, right?" Chu Li looked at her in surprise. Song Wanqing said, "Do you think no one can guess what you're thinking?" Chu Li nodded slowly and did not deny it. If he did, it would be an insult to Song Wanqing's intelligence. Song Wanqing scoffed. "But others didn't expect you to be so ambitious. They all thought you entered Goddess Attraction Mountain to avoid being hunted and become an enlightened master." Chu Li nodded. He was now the #1 master in the Ji dynasty under 100 years. It was difficult for masters from the Tempest Temple to surpass him. He was halfway to becoming an enlightened master. Even the Crown Prince was no match for him. He would definitely become an enlightened master. However, his backing was too weak. The High Duke's public house could not protect him. No one knew that he was a disciple of Amethyst Mountain. As a result, the Tempest Temple would definitely hunt him down. Based on his friendship with Fa Yuan, they might not kill him, but they would definitely weaken his martial arts. They might even cripple his martial arts, which would reduce his chance of becoming an enlightened master and keep him in the Tempest Temple. It was not just the Tempest Temple. The Green Deer Cliff might not be willing to submit. They might also have disciples with profound cultivation levels. In short, other than the Titanium Temple, the other three sects were not easy to deal with. All right, if you can become an enlightened master, Mingyue can be a concubine, Song Wanqing said. Chapter 1442. He did not expect Song Wanqing to say this. He initially thought that she would use her identity as an enlightened master to force him to make a decision and marry into the Great Light Peak to assist Sun Mingyue. Song Wanqing said, "If you can become a god, Mingyue won't feel bad becoming your woman, even if she's an enlightened master." Chuli took a deep breath and swallowed the words that were at the tip of his tongue. He knew that if he really rejected this, not only would Sun Mingyue lose face, but Song Wanqing would not let him go and might even deal with Shao Qi. Instead of that, it was better to put it aside. Song Wanqing did not have much time left in this world. She would soon ascend to the Grandmaster's boundary, so this matter would not be affected. Song Wanqing seemed to have read his mind and scoffed. "Do you dare to admit that you don't like Mingyue at all?" Chuli was silent. No man could reject a woman like Sun Mingyue. Even if he had Shao Qi in his heart and tried his best to suppress his feelings, he could not deceive himself. "Few men," Song Wanqing sneered and cast a sidelong glance at him. Chuli sighed. "It's lonely at the top. The saint is quite pitiful." "She's pitiful, but there are many more pitiful people in this world." Song Wanqing scoffed. "If you pity her, treat her well in the future. Don't torture her." Chuli remained silent and dared not agree. He did not dare to be greedy. He was able to obtain two women. Shao Qi and Sun Mingyue were both extraordinary women in the world. It was already a blessing to have one of them. If he wanted to have both of them, he would end up with nothing and God would punish his greed. He had no regrets. Having Shao Qi as his life was indeed worth it. Song Wanqing said, "Forget it. It's useless to tell you this. Do you really want to become a god?" Chuli nodded slowly. Song Wanqing scoffed. "It's rare for you to have such intentions, but you should know that no one has succeeded so far." Chuli raised his eyebrows and nodded slowly. Song Wanqing said, "The enemy you'll face is the Grandmaster's boundary. They won't allow you to become a god." Chuli frowned at her. Song Wanqing said, "Just like how the Fu dynasty treats the four nations, the Outland and our realm must maintain their suppression. What you'll have to face next is not only the Tempest Temple's pursuit, but also the Fu dynasties. Even if you hide in Goddess Attraction Mountain, you won't be completely safe. More importantly, you'll be pursued by the Outland." "Hunted by the Grandmaster?" Chuli was stunned. Song Wanqing said, "All the gods in the five nations have to listen to the skies beyond. If the skies beyond wants to kill you, then all the gods want to kill you, including me." Chuli shook his head. "I'm flattered. However, if you really can master the dragon control technique, I can help you." Song Wanqing said. Chuli asked, "Senior Song, why are you doing this?" "Because I can't stand the way the realm beyond Avalon does things." Song Wanqing sneered. "As an enlightened master, your hands and feet are tied. You might as well be a grandmaster and be free and unfettered." "How hateful." Chuli nodded. Song Wanqing said, "If you can successfully cultivate the dragon control technique, I will help you think of a way to obtain the other three sects' mental cultivation methods. So the key is the dragon control technique. This dragon control technique is not that easy to cultivate." Chuli replied, "I'll try my best." Song Wanqing said, "If you want to successfully cultivate the dragon control technique, the requirements are too harsh, especially now that the spirit beasts have entered the 100,000 hills. It is even more impossible to cultivate the dragon control technique, so don't hold too much hope. Just stay at Goddess Attraction Mountain. If he could not defy nature and become a god, he could still become a god under the protection of Goddess Attraction Mountain. Although she said it was tasteless, it was still more freedom than the Grandmaster. From then on, his life would no longer be in danger. Chu Li said, "Thank you, Senior Song." Song Wanqing waved her hand and said, "When are you leaving?" "I'll leave now," Chu Li said. "Go." Song Wanqing said, "Talk to Mingyu and leave as soon as possible. Cultivate the dragon control technique as soon as possible. If I haven't mastered the dragon control technique by the time I ascend to heaven, I won't be able to help you anymore." "Yes." Chu Li Fist saluted and turned to leave the courtyard. He arrived at the Divine Light Basilica. The basilica was brightly lit, but it was deserted. Only Sun Mingwei was reading the scrolls. When she saw Chu Li enter, she sat behind the table and looked at him quietly. Chu Li sighed. "I should go to Goddess Attraction Mountain. I'll send you there," Sun Mingwei said. "No need." Chu Li shook his head. "I'll be careful." Both of them knew that the road to Goddess Attraction Mountain was not easy. They might be intercepted along the way. Sun Mingwei frowned and stared at him. Chu Li said, "I can't rely on you for everything. Being able to enter Goddess Attraction Mountain is already a great help. Besides, no one else knows about this, right?" "No." Sun Mingwei shook her head. "How could this matter be spread out? There would be endless trouble." "Then it's fine," Chu Li said. Sun Mingwei scoffed. "Once you enter Goddess Attraction Mountain, you might be wronged. I hope you can bear it." Chu Li said, "I used to be an unranked scribe of the High Duke's public house. It's easy to go up, but it's hard to go down." Sun Mingwei said, "I hope you can bear it. What did Master say to you?" Chu Li smiled. "Senior Song warned me to be careful of all enlightened masters." Sun Mingwei stared at his face carefully and sighed in relief. She was most afraid that Song Wanqing would talk about her relationship with Chu Li and force him to leave Shaoqi and marry her. "It's getting late. I'll set off now." Chu Li Fist saluted. "Take care, Saint. If you really need me, crush this pendant." He took out a crystal-clear jade talisman and handed it to her. Sun Mingwei took it and fiddled with it for a while before putting it in front of her chest. Then, she took out an iron tag from her sleeve and handed it to him. "This is the entrance iron tag to Goddess Attraction Mountain. Anyone who holds this tag will become an outer disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain for a year. I've already told Goddess Attraction Mountain about your identity. You'll be using the name Chu Li." Chu Li smiled and Fist saluted. Then, he turned around and strode out of Divine Light Basilica. He then disappeared and appeared at the exit of Great Light Peak with the appearance of Zhao De. He had been using this appearance to travel through the night. This identity was the safest way for him to avoid being hunted. Until now, no one knew that he was Zhao De. He traveled during the day and rested at night. He was not in a hurry as he leisurely made his way to Goddess Attraction Mountain. After traveling like this for 10 days, he arrived at the foot of a towering peak and looked up at Goddess Attraction Mountain. The towering peak towered into the sky. It was straight and did not have slope. It was like a stone pillar that reached the sky. At first glance, he could only see the clouds and mist. He could not see the peak or how tall it was. Even with the omniscient mirror, Chu Li could not see how tall it was. This was the famous and mysterious Goddess Attraction Mountain. As he stood at the foot of the mountain, he could not help but want to kneel on the ground. He reached out and took out the iron tag. Suddenly, a ray of light appeared on the iron tag. Then, a force surged out of the iron tag and broke free from his hand. It floated in the air and suddenly turned into a ray of dark light that shot into the mountainside of Goddess Attraction Mountain and disappeared. Chu Li frowned and pondered. It seemed that there was a formation carved on the iron tag. Otherwise, no matter how strong one's cultivation level was, it would be impossible to take away the iron tag from so far away. He had studied the iron tag along the way and noticed that there was a strange symbol carved on it. When the iron tag flashed earlier, the omniscient mirror had also seen the strange symbol flash. Chapter 1443. Chu Li stared at the metal plate, but it eventually left the coverage of the omniscient mirror and was thrown somewhere unknown. After a while, a clear cry came from the sky, and 2 white cranes landed. Their huge wings stirred up a strong wind. Chu Li stood in the wind, his white robe flapping loudly as he looked at the handsome young man on the cranes. The 2 cranes were huge, 4 times the size of normal cranes. They stood taller than him, and were even larger than the spirit cranes. Unfortunately, it only looked like that. Through the omniscient mirror, their strength and speed were far inferior to the spirit cranes, but they were a few times stronger than normal cranes. They were in between normal cranes and spirit cranes. A handsome young man in a yellow robe sat on one of the cranes, smiling at Chu Li. Chu Li fist saluted. "I'm Chu Li. I'm Zhu Yuan from the Zheng dynasty." The young man in the yellow robe floated down and fist saluted in front of Chu Li. "Are you chosen by the Li dynasty's imperial family?" Chu Li nodded. He already knew that every year the imperial family would send a quota to Immortal Attraction Mountain to become an Outer Mountain disciple. Although Immortal Attraction Mountain did not care about secular affairs, if one could catch the eye of Immortal Attraction Mountain, they would receive great benefits. Hence, this quota was very popular. The name Chu Li sounds familiar. There's a Chu Li in the Ji dynasty, right? Zhu Yuan smiled. Chu Li smiled. "That's me." "Oh." Zhu Yuan smiled in surprise. The Ji dynasty and the Li dynasty are sworn enemies. "How did they?" Chu Li smiled and shook his head without saying anything. Zhu Yuan smiled. "All right, I won't ask anymore. Follow me." He floated onto one of the cranes and pointed at the other one. Chu Li glided and landed on the back of the white crane. The white crane shook a little before it stood up steadily. It was even more stable than riding a horse. There are already Ji dynasty's imperial family disciples on the mountain. You might know each other. Chu Li asked, "Which one?" "Lung Tao." Zhu Yuan smiled. "You know him?" Chu Li smiled and nodded. "That's good. Let's go." Zhu Yuan smiled and patted the crane's neck. Suddenly, it spread its huge wings and flapped twice, stirring up a gust of wind. With one leg, it flew into the sky. The white crane behind Chu Li flew up as well. Although it was huge, its movements were light and graceful. It looked like a fairy. The 2 cranes swayed as they ascended, passing through the cold clouds, and finally landed in front of a palace on the mountainside. Chu Li looked into the distance and saw a palace at the peak of the mountain. It was not as big as this palace, but it had a glorious golden roof. It was as if all the sunlight had been absorbed into the palace. It was so dazzling that no one dared to look at it directly. As soon as Chu Li stepped into Goddess Attraction Mountain, he immediately felt that the spiritual energy was dense. Although it was not as dense as the 100,000 hills, it was far from comparable to the outside world. He stared at it and analyzed it carefully. The life and death scripture was very sensitive to spiritual chi, so he quickly analyzed that the spiritual chi here was 10 times that of the outside world. If he cultivated here, although he could not achieve 10 times the effect, he could achieve 4 or 5 times the effect. 10 years was equivalent to 50 years for others. Such a beautiful place was really attractive. In front of the huge palace was a meadow. Several white cranes were strolling leisurely, occasionally flying up and disappearing into the sky. There was no one in front of the main hall. After the 2 of them descended from the white crane, Zhu Yuan smiled and said, "This is where we will be staying." Chu Li looked at it. "Just the 2 of us. There are 3 more." Zhu Yuan smiled. "Lung Tao, Li Xuanxin, and Tang Zhao." Chu Li nodded and looked around. Zhu Yuan said, "They're busy feeding the spirit beasts." "Spirit beasts?" Chu Li was surprised. "There are spirit beasts here?" He looked around and activated the omniscient mirror. There were no spirit beasts in the palace. Zhu Yuan shook his head. "The spirit beasts are on the mountain, not here. The 5 of us are Outer Mountain disciples. Our mission is to feed the spirit beasts." "What kind of spirit beasts are they?" Chu Li asked. Zhu Yuan said, "Spirit snakes." Chu Li frowned. Zhu Yuan sighed. I heard that cultivating the dragon taming technique requires spirit snakes, or else it will be impossible to cultivate. However, this generation of Goddess Attraction Mountain disciples has a bad temper. We have to hold it in. Chu Li said, so let's defeat spirit snakes. I heard that we can cultivate some techniques too. Is that true? We can cultivate. Zhu Yuan nodded. Cultivate the spirit snake technique first. If we can cultivate it successfully, we can cultivate the dragon taming technique. Chu Li sighed in relief. Zhu Yuan shook his head. But the spirit snake technique is extremely difficult to cultivate. I've been cultivating for half a month now, but I still haven't gotten the hang of it. The two of them talked as they walked into the palace. They passed through a basilica and arrived at a room in the backyard. This is your residence. I'll live in the other room. This place is big, so you can pick a place to live. You can live wherever you want. Zhu Yuan smiled. Although it's a little lonely, it's still very relaxing. Can we leave the mountain whenever we want? Chu Li asked. Zhu Yuan nodded. Spirit snakes don't eat every day. Sometimes they don't need to be fed, so you can go out for 7 days. Goddess Attraction Mountain won't care about your whereabouts either. Chu Li smiled. That's freedom. If you want to cultivate more advanced martial arts, you need to cultivate the spirit snake technique first. If you can't cultivate the spirit snake technique, well, you can't cultivate other martial arts. Goddess Attraction Mountain won't care if you want to cultivate it or not. Chu Li suddenly understood. And the best way to cultivate the spirit snake technique is to observe and figure out the spirit snake, Zhu Yuan said. That's why the three of them haven't returned yet. I'm here to welcome you. Chu Li smiled and closed fist saluted. Thank you, Brother Zhu. Zhu Yuan waved his hand. We'll be fellow disciples in the future. We'll take care of each other when we leave the mountain. No need to be so polite. Chu Li nodded. As they spoke, footsteps came from outside. The three of them strode in and saw Chu Li. Lung Tao was still chubby, but his face was solemn, as if he was a different person. When he saw Chu Li, his eyes widened and he shouted in disbelief. Chu Li? Chu Li closed fists, saluted, and smiled. Imperial Crown Prince, you're here too? Lung Tao lost his voice. How can you be here? Zhu Yuan smiled. Brother Lung, Brother Chu is here on behalf of the Li Dynasty's imperial family. Li Dynasty? Impossible. Lung Tao shouted. Chu Li said, Imperial Crown Prince, you don't have to be surprised. I really did snatch this spot from the Li Dynasty's imperial family. Impossible. Lung Tao shook his head. Chu Li ignored him and turned to look at the other two young men. One of them was burly and looked simple and honest, while the other was handsome and had a strong aura. Come, let me introduce you. Zhu Yuan smiled. This is Tang Zhao from the Fu Dynasty, and this is Li Xuanxin from the Qiu Dynasty. Chu Li closed fists, saluted, and smiled. Nice to meet you. I'm Chu Li. The two men's expressions changed. Chu Li's name was not to be underestimated. Both of them did not stay in a mountain all the time and often left the mountain, so they were very familiar with this name. Zhu Yuan smiled. This is Chu Li from the Ji Dynasty. Nice to meet you. The two men closed fists, saluted. Lung Tao suddenly shouted, Chu Li, so you're colluding with the Li Dynasty? Chu Li said angrily, Yes, I'm colluding with the Li Dynasty. Lung Tao was overjoyed. You finally admitted it. Chapter 1444. The ecstasy on Lung Tao's face froze. An awkward expression appeared on his chubby white face, and he snorted sternly. I really didn't expect Head Chief Chu to be from the Li Dynasty. Chu Li replied lazily. I'm from the High Duke's public house. Since when did I become from the Li Dynasty? Imperial Crown Prince, think carefully before you speak. Don't just say ridiculous things. Lung Tao scoffed. If you're not from Li Dynasty, how did you get the quota? There are many ways to get the quota. Chu Li said, I'm surprised that you came to Goddess Attraction Mountain. I thought it would be Prince Lung Feng. I didn't expect it to be you. Lung Feng won't come. You must have made a deal with the Li Dynasty. You must have betrayed the Ji Dynasty. Lung Tao said, Imperial Crown Prince, you're being too nosy, Chu Li said. Lung Tao puffed out his chest. As a disciple of the Ji dynasty's imperial family, how can I let you do whatever you want? Chu Li ignored him and fist saluted Tang Zhao and Li Xuanxin. Thank you for your guidance. We wouldn't dare. Both of them were rather cold. Chu Li smiled. He suppressed the Fu dynasty's young disciples to the point that they could not lift their heads, so Fu dynasty's Tang Zhao was hostile. Chu Li must have a close relationship with the Li dynasty's imperial family, since the Qiu dynasty and the Li dynasty had a bad relationship. So Qiu dynasty's Li Xuanxin was hostile too. Lung Tao stared at him and scoffed. Chu Li, I'll spread this news, and your name will be infamous. Chu Li furrowed his brows and glared at him unhappily. A flash of electricity flashed across his eyes. Lung Tao felt his body tense up, and his hair stood up. He could not help but avoid his gaze. Chu Li scoffed. Imperial Crown Prince, I'm sure you're smart. I'll definitely report this. Lung Tao scoffed. Unless you kill me. Chu Li smiled. Why would I kill you over such a small matter? I didn't plan to hide this, and I can't hide it anyway. This has nothing to do with the Li dynasty. It's because of the saint of the Holy Church of Light. I'm just friends with the saint. Holy Church of Light? Lung Tao scoffed. You and the Holy Church of Light are irreconcilable enemies. How can you be related to the Holy Church of Light? Moreover, you are friends with the saint of the Holy Church of Light. He knew that Chu Li had killed many disciples of the Holy Church of Light, and that the Holy Church of Light had sought revenge on him. Chu Li shook his head. How can there be an eternal enemy? You don't need to know about this. I've just arrived, so I'm here to pay my respects to the inner mountain disciples of Goddess Attraction Mountain, right? Tomorrow. Zhu Yuan shook his head and said, Senior Brother Zhou is in closed-door training. He will come out tomorrow, so you won't be able to see him even if you go now. Chu Li nodded. Zhu Yuan and the others quickly left, leaving Chu Li alone in the courtyard. Chu Li's omniscient mirror followed them closely. He saw Tang Zhao and Li Xuanxin's gloomy faces, and Lung Tao's expression was also unpleasant. They were very vigilant towards Chu Li's arrival. Zhu Yuan, on the other hand, looked indifferent. Chu Li entered the house. The simple house had everything he needed. The bedding was clean and spotless, and there were even a few martial arts secret manuals on the desk. He flipped through them casually and lost interest. He did not lack secret manuals, but he lacked the dragon taming technique. The night passed uneventfully. The next morning, he was practicing his fist art in the courtyard when Zhu Yuan appeared and said with a smile, Brother Chu, let's pay our respects to Senior Brother Zhou. Chu Li withdrew his stance and changed into a new set of clothes. Then, he followed Zhu Yuan and rode on the white crane once again. As they flew upward, the temperature suddenly dropped. It was as if autumn had turned into winter. White mist rose from their breaths, and the wind that blew against their faces was like a knife. The white crane landed in front of the palace at the peak of the mountain. The temperature suddenly rose as if it was spring. The surrounding flowers and plants were lush, and a delicate fragrance wafted through the air. The solemn palace was somewhat similar to an imperial palace. It was built on the top of the mountain and bathed in the sunlight. The glazed tiles of the palace shone with a golden light, forcing people to close their eyes. They could only see the situation in front of the palace if they lowered their heads. Zhu Yuan turned his head and whispered to him, Senior Brother, Zhou has a bad temper. Just listen to what he says and don't make him angry. Chu Li nodded. Zhu Yuan arrived at the bottom of the 100 steps and said, Senior Brother Zhou, disciple Chu Li from the Li dynasty is here to pay his respects. Come in. A deep voice came from inside the hall. Zhu Yuan led Chu Li up the 100 steps step by step and arrived at the doorstep of the hall. He fist saluted and said, Senior Brother Zhou. Then, he crossed the doorstep and entered the hall. Chu Li followed him in and saw a handsome young man sitting cross-legged in the center of the hall. He wore a yellow shirt, and his eyes were bright like torches. It was as if he could see through Chu Li's body and mind with just a glance. There was a giant snake coiled around him in the shape of a huge disc. It was as thick as a person's waist, and Chu Li estimated that it was about 30 meters long. The snake's head was ferocious and terrifying. The snake's eyes emitted a cold light as it stared at Chu Li. Its forked tongue kept hissing as if it was going to pounce on him at any time. If it was an ordinary person, they would have collapsed to the ground at the sight of this giant snake. Chuli calmly sized up this giant snake and shook his head. Although this snake was huge, it was not a spirit beast. It was still a normal beast. No matter how big it would not be able to surpass the difference between a mortal and a spirit. Just like humans, no matter how burly and strong an ordinary person was, they were still different from a grandmaster. Senior Brother Zhou, Chuli is here. Zhu Yuan fist saluted and said respectfully, "Greetings, Senior Brother Zhou." Chuli fist saluted. Zhou Jie said coldly, "Why are you only here now?" Chuli said, "I was delayed by something. Please forgive me, Senior Brother Zhou." "You can still be delayed in Goddess Attraction Mountain? It seems like you don't take Goddess Attraction Mountain seriously." Zhou Jie scoffed. "Then why did you come to Goddess Attraction Mountain?" Chuli said helplessly, "I didn't mean it that way." He knew that Zhou Jie was taking the opportunity to create trouble and put him in his place. However, why would a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain do this? Zhou Jie was wearing a treasure weapon that blocked the prying of the omniscient mirror. Chuli could not see through his thoughts, but such hostility did not come out of nowhere. There must be a reason. However, he had to lower his head when he was under someone else's roof. If he wanted the dragon taming technique, he could not be chased out of Goddess Attraction Mountain by Zhou Jie. Zhu Yuan kept quiet out of fear, not daring to say a word. Zhou Jie stared coldly at Chuli. The giant snake behind him slowly crawled toward Chuli, its long forked tongue hissing nonstop. It was almost touching Chuli. Chuli looked at Zhou Jie without moving. Zhou Jie stared at him without blinking, watching as the giant snake kept approaching Chuli. Chuli said, "Does Senior Brother Zhou want to kill me? Do you know that Goddess Attraction Mountain has the right to kill you?" Zhou Jie laughed coldly. "No one will say a word if you're killed." Chuli nodded. "If I've done anything wrong, I'm willing to be punished." Senior Brother Zhou, Brother Chu was only a few days late. He doesn't deserve to die, right? Zhu Yuan said. Zhou Jie's gaze suddenly shot over. The giant snake slid and instantly shot in front of Zhu Yuan. Its long tongue flicked in and out in front of Zhu Yuan, ready to strike his face at any time. Zhu Yuan's expression changed slightly. The giant snake's aura made him feel an immense pressure, and he felt a sense of danger. Chuli frowned. He did not expect Zhou Jie to be so overbearing and unreasonable, insisting on putting him in his place. He did not expect Zhu Yuan to be so innocent. He really did not look like a disciple of the imperial family. Chapter 1445. Zhou Jie said coldly, "Are you going to stand up for him, Zhu Yuan?" Zhu Yuan pursed his lips nervously. He felt cold all over. The giant snake's breath seemed to be blowing on his face. The stench seeped into every pore of his body, trying to freeze him. However, his pride prevented him from bowing down. He pursed his lips tightly and stared at the giant snake without saying a word, meeting its cold gaze. Zhou Jie sneered. "How dare you?" Zhu Yuan said nothing. "Since you want to stand up for him, I'll fulfill your wish." Zhou Jie sneered. Hiss. The giant snake's head slowly retreated and hissed. Suddenly, it moved forward at lightning speed, its tongue stabbing toward Zhu Yuan like a sword. Zhu Yuan quickly blocked it with his palm. Bang! His palm collided with the snake's tongue. Zhu Yuan flew out of the palace and slowly fell down the 100 steps. His palm was limp and could not move anymore. Chuli appeared beside him in a flash and helped him up. Spiritual energy surged into his body and healed his broken arm. The blow broke his shoulder, but his internal organs were unharmed. It was a blow of pure strength. Zhu Yuan struggled to shake his head. He looked arrogantly at Zhou Jie, who was looking down at him at the entrance of the palace. Although Zhou Jie was strong, he was unreasonable and easily angered. Zhu Yuan was an outer mountain disciple, and his martial arts was not high, but he would never bow down. He was here to be a disciple. Why should he be bullied? Zhu Yuan was the Zheng dynasty's crown prince with a high status. No one in the Zheng dynasty treated him like this. Even though his parents told him to lower his head before he came, he could not really do it. Chuli said, "What did Brother Zhu do to be so ruthless? Is this the rule of Goddess Attraction Mountain?" He did not block it earlier because he did not expect Zhou Jie to really do it. He thought it was just to scare Zhu Yuan, but he was too late and caused Zhu Yuan to be injured. Fortunately, it was only a superficial injury. He would recover after a few days of rest. This made him extremely angry. Even if he needed help from Goddess Attraction Mountain, he could not help but want to teach Zhou Jie a lesson. Mountain rules? Zhou Jie suddenly laughed. "Are you even worthy of mentioning mountain rules?" Chu Li said, "We're outer mountain disciples after entering Goddess Attraction Mountain. As an inner mountain disciple, you don't have the right to punish us, right?" "I don't have the right to punish you." Zhou Jie smiled and said, "But if I want to teach you a lesson, I'll teach you a lesson. Who asked your martial arts to be so weak?" Chu Li scoffed coldly. "Do you think you can be so unscrupulous? Our immortal attraction mountain only has 3 inner disciples." Zhou Jie smiled and said, "Master and Grandmaster are both in seclusion. If I teach you a lesson, you can only endure it for nothing. So, you should know your situation, right?" Chu Li turned to look at Zhu Yuan. Zhu Yuan gritted his teeth and nodded. He could feel Chu Li's inner energy continuously healing his arm. It was warm and comfortable. Chu Li's cultivation level was far higher than his. No wonder he had such a great reputation. His reputation was indeed well-deserved. Chu Li scoffed. "That's impossible. Only 3 people? Master is an enlightened master. Master is currently in isolation. When he comes out, he will be an enlightened master. I will also be an enlightened master in the future." Zhou Jie sneered. "Chu Li, although you are powerful, you are destined to never become an enlightened master." Chu Li replied faintly, "That might not be the case." Zhou Jie curled his lips and sneered. "Do you think you can obediently wait to take over as an enlightened master by hiding here?" Chu Li frowned. "Could it be that someone dares to attack Goddess Attraction Mountain? You're too naive." Zhou Jie scoffed. "I heard you have a wife in the High Duke's public house. If someone wants to attack the High Duke's public house or capture your wife, will you go back?" Chu Li sighed. "The Tempest Temple is not that despicable. For the sake of an enlightened master, even the most despicable things can be done." Zhou Jie curled his lips. "So, don't even dream about it." Chu Li nodded. "Thank you for the reminder, Senior Brother Zhou." Zhou Jie sneered. "I'm reminding you to be mindful of your identity. You're not an enlightened master. You're just an outer mountain disciple." "Yes," Chu Li replied, "but I also have to remind Senior Brother Zhou that you're not an enlightened master either. You're just an inner mountain disciple." Zhou Jie's face darkened. "Looks like you're not convinced." Chu Li replied, "I wouldn't dare." Senior Brother Zhou was so aggressive. It was all because of jealousy. "Nonsense." Zhou Jie's expression changed. He laughed out loud. "Jealousy? I'm jealous of you?" Chu Li said coldly. "You're feeling guilty, aren't you?" When he heard that there were only 3 people in Goddess Attraction Mountain and that the other 2 were in isolated cultivation, he completely gave up. It was almost impossible to learn the dragon taming technique from Goddess Attraction Mountain. Looking at Zhou Jie, he would never teach it to him. It would be useless even if he knelt down and begged. If that was the case, why should he be sullen? "Chu, who do you think you are?" Zhou Jie sneered. "You think you're the youth champion just because you're a little famous? You're just a frog in a well. Today, I'll let you know that there's always someone better than you." As he finished speaking, the giant snake suddenly crawled out of the palace. Its 10-meter-long body appeared in the air, and its tongue stabbed forward like a sword. Ding! Chu Li held his sword horizontally in front of him. The tongue hit the blade, and a great force was transmitted. Chu Li's own strength was strong. Although it was not as strong as a spirit beast, it was far stronger than a human. Although the giant snake was strong, it was not much stronger than him. The magical effect of the giant spirit pill was shown. He did not take a step back. "Humph!" Zhou Jie sneered when he saw him standing steadily. The giant snake was like a gust of wind. It did not seem clumsy at all. It slithered down the stairs in an instant and circled Chu Li and Zhu Yuanzhu in the middle. Its tongue flicked in and out and hissed. It stared coldly at the two of them. Zhu Yuanzhu's body stiffened. He wanted to turn around and escape. Chu Li said in a low voice, "If this snake is presumptuous again, don't blame me for being impolite." "Huh?" Zhou Jie laughed. "Impolite? Are you saying that you can kill it? If you can really kill it, then I have nothing to say." "That's good." Chu Li nodded slowly. Zhou Jie shook his head and laughed. "You really don't know your limits." As soon as he finished speaking, the giant snake's tongue shot towards Chu Li again. Ding, 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 ding. Chu Li stabbed the tongue several times. He moved forward as he attacked. He got closer to the giant snake's body. The tip of his sword even stabbed the snake's body, making the sound of metal clashing. The giant snake's scales were hard and impenetrable. However, Chu Li did not stop stabbing as if he was unconvinced and wanted to break through. The giant snake's movements were extremely fast. Coupled with the speed of its tongue, Zhu Yuan was dazzled. He knew that he could not avoid it, even if he was prepared. This giant snake was Zhou Jie's pet. If it could not deal with it, then Zhou Jie could. It was no wonder that Zhou Jie was so arrogant. Chu Li appeared behind the giant snake in a flash. He gently circled the snake's neck with his sword, and the snake's body was suddenly cut into two. This sword attack was unleashed by the rich force accumulated in the 7 chakras. As he expected, its power was shocking. Bang, 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 bang. The snake's head and tail struggled violently. They swept left and right. The spotless bluestone floor shook from the giant snake's slaps. Chapter 1446. Chu Li gently shook his sword, and the blood dripped onto the bluestone floor. He sheathed his sword. He shook his head. No matter how big the snake was, it was not a spirit snake. Otherwise, even with a strong aura, the sword might not be able to cut in half. "Chu Li, you deserve to die." Zhou Jie's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at Chu Li. "I will kill you for little Qing." Chu Li said calmly, "This is a warning to Brother Zhou. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you are an inner mountain disciple. Die." Zhou Jie roared and crossed 100 steps in one step. He reached Chu Li and slammed his palm. Bam! Chu Li took a step back and looked at Zhou Jie in shock. He did not expect his palm energy to be so strong and domineering. It was only slightly weaker than his own. This was even better than Wei Wu Wei. No wonder he was so arrogant. Zhou Jie took 2 steps back and almost tripped on the steps. He stared at Chu Li with an ugly expression. He did not expect Chu Li to be so powerful. Chu Li's cultivation level was higher than his, and his inner energy was so strong that it suppressed him. His internal organs felt like they were burning. It was much purer than his. Chu Li shook his head. "That's all you got. Die." Zhou Jie snorted and slammed his palm again. Roar. It was as if a giant beast was roaring. The strange palm energy reached Chu Li's chest at an incredible speed. Chu Li did not dodge and met it with his right palm. Boom! It was like an explosion. Chu Li stood firmly while Zhou Jie took 2 steps back. His face was flushed. Boom, boom, boom. The two of them continued to exchange palms. In the blink of an eye, they exchanged 10 palms. Chu Li did not take a single step back. Zhou Jie desperately attacked, but kept retreating. At first, he was forced to take 2 steps back. After 10 palms, he was forced to take 4 steps back. His face was as red as blood, and his eyes were bloodshot. He stared at Chu Li. Good, good. Chu Li shook his head. It's a waste of effort. You are no match for me. No wonder you are so arrogant. Zhou Jie gritted his teeth and glanced at the broken snake on the ground. But this is Goddess Attraction Mountain, not the Ji Dynasty. Chu Li said, so what if it's Goddess Attraction Mountain? Does Brother Zhou dare to kill me? I don't dare to kill, but someone dares to kill you. Zhou Jie sneered. Chu Li extended his hand. As an outer mountain disciple, I have the right to cultivate the spirit serpent technique, right? You want to cultivate the spirit serpent art? Zhou Jie sneered. You're interested in the spirit serpent art? Chu Li replied, I'm not interested in the spirit serpent technique. I want to cultivate the dragon taming technique. I heard that it's the ultimate technique of Goddess Attraction Mountain. You haven't cultivated it yet, have you? All right, I'll give you the spirit snake art. Zhou Jie scoffed with a gloomy face. He took out a thin booklet and tossed it to Chu Li. Practice well. If you can't master this, don't come to the inner mountain. He waved his hand and returned to the main hall. Zhu Yuan pursed his lips. This Zhou Jie was also someone who bullied the weak and feared the strong. When he saw that he could not defeat Chu Li, he retreated. Even though the giant snake was killed by Chu Li, it was really disgraceful. He did not use any secret skills at all. Chu Li took the secret manual and glanced at the 3 big words on it. Spirit Serpent Technique. Raising his thumb, Zhu Yuan praised, Brother Chu, you're truly amazing. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. I've caused Brother Zhu to get injured. It's none of your business. Zhu Yuan scoffed. I've always disliked him. He's always arrogant and overbearing. It's as if we're all his slaves, ordering us around. I've been itching to beat him up for a long time. Chu Li laughed. Zhu Yuan said, I really can't defeat him. This guy is arrogant, but his martial arts is really powerful. He's worthy of being a disciple of Goddess Attraction Mountain. Chu Li laughed. He hasn't cultivated the dragon taming technique yet, right? He felt that Zhou Jie's martial arts was not the dragon taming technique. Otherwise, the dragon taming technique would be too weak. He hasn't mastered the spirit snake art. Otherwise, he wouldn't have this snake by his side. It would have become a spirit snake long ago. Zhu Yuan pouted. Spirit snake? Chu Li frowned. He had already noticed something strange. The giant snake that he had just killed seemed to be connected to Zhou Jie. Zhu Yuan said, Our spirit snake art allows us to tame spirit snakes as our pets. We can let spirit snakes fight for us. Chu Li laughed. This was out of his expectations. He had thought that the spirit snake art was a martial arts technique that was based on the wonders of spirit snakes. He never thought that not only could it be used to cultivate oneself, but it could also tame spirit snakes for one's own use. How was this martial arts technique? It was more like a divine power. Zhu Yuan said, The spirit snake art is very mysterious. It allows one to transform into a spirit snake and gain the recognition of other spirit snakes to become one's pet. Chu Li nodded thoughtfully. He did not say much and quickly flipped open the spirit snake art. He finished reading more than 10 pages in one go. He quickly deduced in his mind and finally nodded. It was indeed, as Zhu Yuan had said. The spirit snake art was a technique that tempered the body and cultivated energy. By obtaining the spirit of spirit snakes, one could communicate with the spirit snakes and become one's pet. While one was powerful, one would also obtain a powerful assistant. Compared to the spirit crane art that he had cultivated before, the spirit snake art took a different path. The spirit crane art only took the charm of spirit cranes. It was a powerful martial arts technique that was inspired by spirit cranes. When it was perfected, its power would be shocking. The spirit snake art, on the other hand, transformed one's body into a spirit snake. In essence, it was a technique that tempered the body. It was more difficult to cultivate than the spirit crane art. It was not easy to change one's body. One would have to suffer a lot. How can he become an inner mountain disciple if he hasn't cultivated the spirit snake art? Chu Li asked. Zhu Yuan pursed his lips. Although he hasn't cultivated the spirit snake art, he has enough potential. If he slowly cultivates it, he will eventually cultivate the dragon taming technique and become an enlightened master. Chu Li shook his head. Don't tell me the dragon taming technique is to cultivate himself into a dragon. Yes. Zhu Yuan said, spirit snakes can only transform into dragons after they become strong. If he doesn't cultivate the spirit snake art, he won't be able to cultivate the dragon taming technique. Chu Li nodded slowly. Zhu Yuan said, in short, this spirit snake art is very difficult to cultivate. Even Zhou Jie couldn't cultivate it with his potential. It'll be even more difficult for us to cultivate it. There's a way, Chu Li said. I have to try. Brother Chu, you have great potential too. You might be able to cultivate it, Zhu Yuan said. Chu Li shook his head. I have average potential. I'm just lucky. I'll go back and cultivate first. Will brother, Zhou, give me trouble again? Zhu Yuan said, I know this guy. When he can't beat you, he'll definitely behave himself. When he can beat you, he'll definitely settle old scores. So, Brother Chu, you have to cultivate the spirit snake art quickly. Don't fall behind him. Chu Li Fist saluted. I'll be in your care in the future, Brother Zhu. Actually, we don't have much to do on Goddess Attraction Mountain. We just have some trivial things to do. Zhu Yuan said, besides feeding the spirit beasts, we also have to plant spirit herbs. Cultivating the spirit snake art requires a unique secret formula of spirit medicine. Every day, we have to boil and bathe in spirit herbs. We have to plant all these spirit herbs. Each of us has to take care of 10 acres of spirit herbs. Chu Li nodded. All right, we don't have to care about this snake. He was the best at planting spirit herbs. It was also the most worry-free. Zhu Yuan said, just throw it down. Chu Li pushed with his palm, and the giant snake fell into the clouds, disappearing before their eyes. The two rode the white crane back to their palace. They followed Zhu Yuan to a spirit herb nursery and found 10 acres of spirit herbs that belonged to them. Chapter 1447. Chu Li looked at the 10 acres of spirit herbs and shook his head. No matter where he went, he would always encounter spirit herbs. However, with the life and death scripture, he did not have to worry about spirit herbs. Now that the life and death scripture was becoming more powerful, it was more beneficial to spirit herbs. These are green headgrass, splendid pine grass, golden water grass. Zhu Yuan pointed at the acres of spirit herbs and introduced the names of the 10 spirit herbs one by one. He smiled. When these 10 spirit herbs are boiled together, it will be the most important medicinal bath for us to cultivate the spirit snake technique. Without this medicinal bath recipe, obtaining the spirit snake technique secret manual would be useless. Moreover, these 10 spirit herbs are the spirit snake's most important food. Other than for ourselves, we have to feed the spirit snake. Chu Li smiled. Feeding the spirit snake is the most important, right? Yes. Zhu Yuan smiled and nodded. We can only use the leftovers from a spirit snake. However, there are 4 of us. 40 acres of spirit herbs is enough for it to eat. We have plenty to use too. Chu Li pondered. Can we plant these at the foot of the mountain? As long as there is enough for the spirit snake to eat and enough spirit herbs, you can plant them wherever you want. You can also ask for help from others. In short, you don't have to worry about these spirit herbs spreading. Zhu Yuan smiled. However, these spirit herbs are difficult to grow. Goddess Attraction Mountain has a rich spiritual energy. Even if there are spirit fields elsewhere, it will be difficult to grow them. Chu Li nodded. Rich spiritual energy was indeed a characteristic of Goddess Attraction Mountain. He smiled. Zhou Jia, was that snake a spirit snake? No. Zhu Yuan shook his head. It was just a little bit away from becoming a spirit snake. It would have probably done so in another 10 years. Unfortunately, you killed it. Chu Li smiled. Could it be that a normal snake can also become a spirit snake? Yes. Zhu Yuan nodded. If it eats enough of these 10 spirit herbs and uses the inner energy of the spirit snake technique to wash its body, it will become a spirit snake. The dragon taming technique can turn a spirit snake into a dragon. After becoming an enlightened master, they can ride a dragon to and fro the outland. They are much more powerful than other enlightened masters. That's why Goddess Attraction Mountain can transcend the world. Legend has it that after mastering the dragon taming technique and the other 3 heart techniques, one can enter and exit the outland without the help of a dragon. Define nature and become a god? Chu Li asked. Zhu Yuan laughed. Defying the heavens and becoming a god is just a legend. No one knows if it's true or not, because no one has ever succeeded in cultivating it. What Zhou Jie said is true, but no one has ever succeeded in cultivating it. The people of Immortal Attraction Mountain ride dragons to and from heavens beyond. Chu Li nodded. The Spirit Snake incantation has a total of 9 levels. If I can master the 3rd level, I can stay on the mountain for another year. If I master the 6th level, I can stay for another year. Zhu Yuan smiled and said, if you can cultivate it to perfection You will be an inner mountain disciple. There will be endless benefits. Chu asked, has anyone mastered the 6th level? There was one 100 years ago. Zhu Yuanzhu sighed and said, it's a pity that I couldn't reach the 9th level in the end. After staying for 3 years, I still went down the mountain. Chu furrowed his brows and said, this threshold is really high. What are the qualifications required to become an inner mountain disciple? Zhu Yuan shook his head. Only the inner mountain disciples know about this. It is said that after starting to cultivate the art of dragon control, there are 2 most important tasks. One is to cultivate the art of dragon control, and the other is to find a disciple. You must find a disciple who meets the requirements. Only one? Chu asked. Zhu Yuan nodded. Goddess Attraction Mountain only has 1 disciple, and it will never be broken. Chu slowly nodded. Zhu Yuan said, also, it is said that only 1 disciple can be found. These disciples are all reincarnated devas, which is why they can cultivate the art of dragon control. Ordinary people can't cultivate the art of dragon control at all. Devas? Chu was surprised. Zhu Yuan waved his hand and said, this is just a legend. I don't know if it's true or not. Anyway, Goddess Attraction Mountain is very mysterious. The spiritual energy is especially rich. Cultivating here for a year is equivalent to cultivating outside for a few years. Even if I can't cultivate the spirit snake incantation, it will still be very beneficial. Chu said, other than the spirit snake, can we also feed the dragon? We only care about the spirit snake. We don't need to use anything else. Zhu Yuan smiled and said, Zhou Jie, ignore him. He can't do anything to us. Chu frowned and said, I killed his snake. Won't I be punished? He provoked us first. Zhu Yuan scoffed and said, the Hill Master is fair. He won't be biased. Besides, the Hill Master is an isolated cultivation. He can't be bothered with this kind of thing. What if he kills us? Chu asked. Zhu Yuan said, he doesn't have the guts. We're not ordinary people. No matter how extraordinary Goddess Attraction Mountain is, they won't dare to act recklessly. Chu nodded. They were all disciples of the imperial family. Their status was much higher than ordinary people. However, he was not. Zhou Jie might be looking for an opportunity to kill him. Unfortunately, Zhou Jie could not kill him. They had to think of other ways. Can we get the dragon taming technique? Chu asked. Will it be easier to comprehend the spirit snake incantation through the dragon taming technique? If we can't cultivate the spirit snake incantation, we won't be able to see the dragon taming technique. Zhu Yuan shook his head and said, not to mention us. Even Zhou Jie hasn't seen the dragon taming technique. Chu nodded thoughtfully. Brother Chu, you have extraordinary qualifications. Unfortunately, no matter how good your qualifications are, I'm afraid you can't cultivate the dragon taming technique. Zhu Yuan shook his head and said, let's see if you can cultivate the spirit snake incantation first. The spirit snake incantation is very powerful. He knew that his qualifications were far from Chu Li's. It was almost impossible for him to cultivate the spirit snake incantation. He could only try his best to cultivate it and strive to stay at Goddess Attraction Mountain for 1 more year. Chu smiled and said, I'll ask the High Duke's public house to help me plant the spirit herbs. I've also asked someone to help me plant them. Zhu Yuan smiled and said, under the hazy moonlight, Chu sat in a wooden tub in a house. The tub was steaming hot, and the smell of medicine was rich. He sat in the hot water and felt the strange medicinal effects enter his pores and merge with the heat flow in his meridians. The inner energy of the spirit snake incantation was firm and yang. It was similar to the spiritual energy he obtained from the Outland. Although it was not as pure as the spiritual energy from the Outland, there was a faint trace of it. This made Chu extremely surprised. He knew a little about the firm and yang heart techniques, but none of them were similar to the spiritual energy from the Outland. Only the spirit snake incantation had a trace of the spiritual energy from the Outland. It was far from the spiritual energy from the Outland, but it already surpassed the firm and yang inner energy. He suddenly understood the wonders of the spirit snake incantation. The name spirit snake incantation was very deceptive. In fact, this heart technique was completely different from the spirit crane incantation. The spirit crane incantation was a heart technique created by comprehending the charm of the spirit crane incantation. After cultivating it, one would be as agile and swift as a spirit crane. The spirit snake incantation, on the other hand, did not refer to the charm of the spirit snake incantation. Instead, it allowed an ordinary snake to transform into the power of a spirit snake. Zhu Yuan's understanding was fundamentally wrong. After cultivating the spirit snake incantation, one would transform into a spirit snake with infinite strength. He had underestimated the spirit snake incantation. It would be very difficult to cultivate it with this understanding. If Chuli had not cultivated the supreme diamond scripture and come into contact with the spiritual energy from the outland, he would not have discovered the wonders of the spirit snake incantation. Chapter 1448. Chuli opened his eyes and soaked in the warm water. The medicinal fragrance had disappeared, and the water in the wooden bucket was so clear that he could see the bottom. He had been wearing the floating silkworm-treasured clothing and had been protected by the vital energy. Dust did not stick to his body. In addition, his body had been cleansed several times and was almost free of dirt. Therefore, even after soaking for so long, the water in the bucket was still clear. He smiled. The Supreme Vidra Scripture was able to obtain the spiritual chi of the sky beyond heaven, which was extremely firm and yang. Unfortunately, the cultivation of the Supreme Vajra Scripture required two people to work together. He could only absorb the spiritual chi through the nirvana wheel, but he could not transform it into a mellow aura. He could not cultivate it alone. Usually, he only used the hard and yang vital energy to activate various martial arts. Although the effect was stronger than the original inner energy, it was far from his expectations and could not reach the mellow aura level. All this while, he could not convert spiritual energy from outland. All the hard techniques he learned could not convert it. He always regretted it and refused to cultivate it with Sun Mingwei. He could only waste the supreme titanium scripture. Now that he cultivated the spirit serpent technique, he suddenly found a way to cultivate spiritual energy from outland. He could convert spiritual energy from outland and increase his power. Even if it was not as good as the supreme titanium scripture, he was satisfied. As the level of the spirit serpent technique increased, the power would also increase. He secretly thought that it might be comparable to the supreme titanium scripture or even better than the mellow aura that he cultivated with Sun Mingwei. Time passed by unknowingly. A night had passed, and it was morning. Zhu Yuan's voice came from outside. "Brother Chu, let's go feed the spirit snake." Chuli floated out of the wooden bucket and shook gently. He put on his clothes and walked out. Zhu Yuan was standing outside with a bag of spirit herbs on his back. When he saw Chuli come out, he quickly said, "We should go feed the spirit snakes. We have to feed them once every 10 days. Don't forget. Otherwise, if Zhou Jie catches us, we'll be in trouble again." "Okay." Chuli nodded. "Don't need to bring more spirit herbs?" "No, we'll take turns. You do it once, and I do it once, so we don't have to go every time. I'm bringing you to have a look today." Zhu Yuan said, "I'll bring all the spirit herbs this time. Next time, you'll bring all. We'll take turns every 20 days. Chuli nodded. The two of them rode on the white crane and flew into the clouds. After passing through the clouds, they arrived at the palace at the top of the mountain and landed gracefully. Then the two of them got off the white crane and arrived in front of Zhou Jie, who was waiting there. Zhou Jie gloomily stared at the two of them. Zhu Yuan, carrying a bag of spirit herbs, stepped forward and cupped his fists. "Senior Marshal Brother Zhou." Zhou Jie furrowed his brows as he looked at Chu Li. His face darkened as he felt that Chu Li's aura was much stronger than yesterday. It was as if Chu Li was a completely different person. His spirit serpent technique was progressing very quickly. His cultivation level was not as high as Chu Li's, so he could not estimate the depth of Chu Li's cultivation. However, he was very familiar with the spirit serpent technique. He could feel the strong aura of the spirit serpent technique from Chu Li's body, and it did not seem like it was caused by just one night. However, he had clearly just started cultivating. If that was the case, then his progress in one night was equivalent to the progress of others for a long time. Could it be that this Chu Li was a genius in cultivation? Could he have mastered the spirit serpent technique? When he thought of this, he felt a sense of crisis. If Chu Li really became an inner mountain disciple, then he would have to suffer. He would have to see Chu Li from time to time, and this was not the kind of life he wanted. Chu Li cupped his fists and remained silent. You've cultivated the spirit serpent technique, haven't you? Zhou Jie scoffed. Chu Li nodded. Zhou Jie looked at him from head to toe. You've cultivated to the first level? Chu Li smiled. The third level. Impossible. Zhou Jie scoffed. The third level? How dare you say that? Chu Li smiled without saying a word. Zhu Yuan turned his head and looked at him in surprise. Brother Chu, you've really cultivated to the third level? Chu Li said. What's there to lie about? Isn't it obvious which level I've cultivated to? As he spoke, he lightly slapped his palm towards Zhou Jie. Zhou Jie gritted his teeth and slapped his palm. Bang! Zhou Jie took 4 steps back. He felt the strong and masculine aura and immediately knew that it was the spirit serpent technique. However, Chu Li's third level of the spirit serpent technique was much stronger than his 5th level. It was purer and more overbearing. You're at the 3rd level? He scoffed. Chu Li nodded. I guess I'm at the 3rd level. The spirit serpent technique he cultivated was different from Zhou Jie's. It was cultivated using the spiritual energy of Outland, while Zhou Jie cultivated using the spiritual energy of this world. The two were fundamentally different, so the power was much weaker. Moreover, his original cultivation level was higher than Zhou Jie's. Zhou Jie gritted his teeth. What a 3rd level. You've cultivated to the 3rd level in one night. You're like a fish in water. Chu Li smiled. That's right. I feel that my cultivation of the spirit serpent technique is exceptionally fast. It's as if I'm assisted by God. He naturally knew that it was due to the help of the spiritual energy of Outland and the supreme diamond scripture. However, saying it like this added a sense of mystery. It gave people the feeling that it was predestined. As expected, Zhou Jie's expression changed when he heard this. He sneered, as if you're assisted by God. Chu Li nodded seriously. I was just casually cultivating, and I ended up entering the 3rd level. I've never seen the spirit serpent technique before, and I definitely didn't cultivate it secretly. It's really strange. Zhu Yuan nodded. It's really strange. Chu Li said, Brother Zhou, do you know the reason? Zhou Jie scoffed coldly. What reason? Are you going to say that you're the reincarnation of a deva? Chu Li smiled. Are you saying that I'm the reincarnation of a deva if I cultivate the spirit serpent technique quickly? What else? Zhou Jie sneered. You're really daring. It's not too late to say that after you've cultivated the spirit serpent technique to the 6th level, reincarnation of a deva. Dream on. Zhu Yuan sized Chu Li up and then looked at Zhou Jie. He smiled. That's not necessarily true. Brother Chu is now the youth's number 1. I heard that your cultivation time is very short. You're really a rare genius. I believe that you're the reincarnation of a deva. Chu Li smiled and shook his head. I've never heard of this. How can a deva be reincarnated? Zhu Yuan said seriously. Brother Chu, it seems that you really don't know about the reincarnation of a deva. Brother Zhou knows. Brother Zhou, don't you think that Brother Chu is like a reincarnation of a deva? Whether or not it's not up to you. Zhou Jie said coldly. It's getting late. You should go feed the spirit snake. Oh yes, it's time to feed the spirit snake. Zhu Yuan quickly nodded. He picked up the bag of spirit herbs and was about to move forward, but was stopped by Zhou Jie. He scoffed. I want to check your spirit herbs. Zhu Yuan passed the bag of spirit herbs to him. Zhou Jie opened the bag and flipped through the spirit herbs. In the end, he retracted his hand and scoffed. That's right. Chu Li, be careful. It's fine that you kill my spirit snake. If you kill another spirit snake, No one can save you. Chu Li Fist saluted and did not say anything. Zhu Yuan picked up the bag and quickly moved forward. He did not want Chu Li to be unable to control himself and hit Zhou Jia. The two arrived at a ravine. As soon as they stepped into the ravine, Chu Li activated the omniscient mirror. He finally found a small snake that was only a meter long and as thick as a finger. It was emerald green like jade. It was completely different from the giant snake that Zhou Jia kept. This emerald green snake was a spirit snake. According to Chu Li's omniscient mirror, its intelligence was not inferior to that of a normal person. Chapter 1449. Zhu Yuan looked around and slowly put the bag down. Chu Li asked, "You'll just leave us here? You'll have to wait for it to eat the spirit herbs," Zhu Yuan said, "and observe it." Chu Li asked, "Will it not eat?" Zhu Yuan shook his head. "Sometimes it needs to shed its skin and needs more spirit herbs. It can't wait 10 days. It needs 5 days to feed it." Chu Li slowly nodded. A moment later, a green light flashed, and a jade green spirit snake was lying on top of the spirit herbs. It was what Chu Li saw earlier. Its entire body looked like it was carved out of jade. Not only did it not give off an eerie feeling, but it was also beautiful. One would want to reach out and touch it, but one would have goosebumps when looking at its cold and merciless vertical pupils. It laid on top of the spirit herbs and raised its delicate head. It looked at Chu Li and Zhu Yuan, its tongue hissing in and out in extremely fast speed. After staring at Chu Li and Zhu Yuan for a while, the snake slowly lowered its head and remained motionless on top of the spirit herbs. A colorful aura gushed out from the bag of spirit herbs, fluttered into the spirit snake's mouth, and disappeared into it. The bulging spirit herb bag suddenly shriveled, and the spirit herbs seemed to have disappeared. The emerald spirit snake laid on top of the bag without moving, as if it was full and did not want to move. Chu Li turned to look at Zhu Yuan. "It's full, right?" "Yes." Zhu Yuan smiled. "Let's complete the mission." Chu Li smiled. "That's quite easy." "It's easy, but the spirit herbs are the key." Zhu Yuan nodded. "Let's go." They turned around and took 2 steps when Chu Li pushed Zhu Yuan. Swoosh! A green shadow flashed, and Zhu Yuan staggered to avoid it. Chu Li quickly shouted, "Be careful!" Zhu Yuan looked at the green shadow in confusion. He did not know why the spirit snake would suddenly attack him. Chu Li suddenly stood in front of Zhu Yuan and pressed his palm forward. Bam! The spirit snake collided with the Heavenly King palm energy. It sounded like a hammer hitting a piece of wood. It paused in the air and curled its body before shooting toward Zhu Yuan again. It was determined to kill him. Chu Li used another Heavenly King palm. Bam! 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 Chu Li unleashed 3 Heavenly King palms in one go, blocking the spirit snake outside his palm. Zhu Yuan asked blankly, "What's going on?" Chu Li scoffed. Just now, the bag contained spirit herbs that it hated. It made its whole body uncomfortable. He could sense the changes in the spirit snake's emotions. It was already extremely furious and determined to kill Zhu Yuan. Its intelligence was not inferior to a human's. It knew that the spirit grass was brought by Zhu Yuan, so it wanted to kill Zhu Yuan. However, it had already angered it by blocking its way, so it wanted to kill it as well. "That's impossible." Zhu Yuan shouted, "I picked the spiritual grasses one by one. There's no way I'm wrong." Chu Li shook his head. "Let's retreat first." "Oh," Zhu Yuan answered and hurriedly walked out. Chu Li brought up the rear and repeatedly blocked the spirit snake with his palms. The spirit snake's emotions turned from anger to irritation, and its jade-like body began to expand. Its cold eyes gradually lit up, and the force it used to collide with Chu Li's palm energy became stronger and faster. When the two retreated into the ravine, it suddenly howled and flew into the sky. It flew over Chu Li's head and landed at the entrance of the ravine, blocking their way out. Then, a green glow shot towards Chu Li. Chu Li pulled Zhu Yuan and retreated. Hiss! The green glow landed on the ground and suddenly disappeared. Then, the weeds within 10 meters withered and turned into ashes. Chu Li's omniscient mirror clearly saw the green glow turn into poisonous gas and spread. It was extremely toxic, and it could cut one's throat without bleeding. Chu Li's face darkened as he slowly pulled out his long sword. The modesty sword was dull, but under the activation of his inner energy, it flashed with a frightening aura. He realized that God's limbs and the divine void light technique could not be used. Goddess Attraction Mountain was indeed strange, but he did not know if it was because of a formation or something else. Otherwise, he would have escaped long ago. Not only were God's limbs and the divine void light technique restricted, but imminent skyline and other body movement techniques were also slowed down. However, the spirit snake did not seem to be affected and moved extremely quickly. If this continued, they would not be able to escape. Zhu Yuan knew at a glance that the modesty sword was a spirit weapon. He quickly said, "Brother Chu, you can't hurt it." Chu Li said, "It won't let us leave if we don't hurt it. If you hurt it, Brother Chu, you won't be able to stay on Goddess Attraction Mountain anymore." Zhu Yuan said. Chu Li said coldly, "Looks like it was Senior Brother Zhou's doing." Zhu Yuan gritted his teeth. Vicious. He was certain that there was absolutely no problem with the spirit herbs he had picked, but Zhou Jie had turned them over halfway. He must have done something to them and angered the spirit snake. This Zhou Jie was truly vicious. He wanted their lives. Chu Li said, "You go first." "No." Zhu Yuan shook his head. "Let's go together." Chu Li said, "Brother Zhu, you can ask Senior Brother Zhou for help. He can't just leave us to die, right?" This. Zhu Yuan frowned. Chu Li said, "I think Senior Brother Zhou can appease this spirit snake. He should be able to." Zhu Yuan nodded. Chu Li said, "If it doesn't help us, then don't blame me for being ruthless." Zhu Yuan thought about it and nodded. This was a good idea. He would not be able to help here. His martial arts skills were too weak, and he would only be a burden. He could not help but say, "All right, I'll go find Zhou Jie." Chu Li took a step forward, and a misty sword light flashed. The spirit snake rushed forward. Ding! The sword and the snake's body let out a sound of metal clashing. The spirit snake was shaken by the sword energy, and its strength was instantly dissipated. Its body stopped and fell to the ground. "Go!" Chu Li pushed Zhu Yuan. Zhu Yuan was thrown out like a stone from a catapult. He flew out of the ravine in the blink of an eye. The spirit snake hissed, and its body expanded again. It shot toward Chu Li angrily and no longer chased after Zhu Yuan. Chu Li waved his sword and covered his body. Ding, 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 ding. The continuous clear sound was like rain hitting on banana leaves. He waved his sword and retreated. Zhu Yuan turned to look at Chu Li and the spirit snake. He hurriedly ran toward the basilica. After a while, he arrived at the basilica, but did not see Zhou Jie. He shouted, "Senior Zhou, Senior Zhou." His voice was very loud, but Zhou Jie seemed to have disappeared. Zhu Yuan immediately thought that Zhou Jie must be hiding in a corner, did not let him find him. He was furious and shouted, "Zhou Jie, Zhou Jie, Zhou Jie, get out here." He stood in front of the basilica and cursed loudly. Unfortunately, Zhou Jie did not make a sound. It seemed like he was really not there. Zhu Yuan turned to look at the white cranes in front of the basilica and realized there were only two. It was obvious that Zhou Jie rode the other one away. He was really not there and might be hiding below. He stomped his feet and screamed at the sky. "Brother Zhu." Chu Li's voice suddenly rang in his ears. Zhu Yuan saw that Chu Li was already in front of him. He immediately smiled and sighed in relief. Chu Li pulled him up. "Hurry up and leave." Before he finished speaking, a green shadow flashed and the spirit snake attacked again. Chu Li could only wave his sword to block it. He said helplessly, "It can actually leave the ravine." He originally thought that the spirit snake would only stay in the ravine and that he could get rid of it by leaving the ravine. He did not expect that it did not care about the ravine at all and continued to chase after them. Chapter 1450. Zhu Yuan quickly shouted, "Don't let it hurt the spirit crane." Chu Li shook his head helplessly and swung his sword forward to block the spirit snake that was shooting at the crane. Ding, ding, ding. The spirit snake changed directions 3 times in the air, but was blocked by the modesty sword. Ding, ding. The spirit crane pecked the spirit snake and let out a metallic sound. Although the 2 cranes had not reached the spirit crane level, they were close to it. Their long beaks were as sharp as steel. Hiss! The spirit snake hissed angrily and suddenly shot at Zhu Yuan. Chu Li blocked it with his sword, and it shot at the cranes again. Chu Li blocked it with his sword again, causing the spirit snake to hiss angrily, but it could not do anything to Chu Li. His sword was as dense as a net, and it could not escape no matter how hard it struggled. Zhu Yuan clapped and laughed. Good swordsmanship. Chu Li smiled. I can't hurt it, and I can't let it hurt anyone. It's so tiring. Brother Chu, I didn't expect your swordsmanship to be so powerful. Zhu Yuan praised. He was not surprised that Chu Li could defeat the spirit snake, but the difficult part was that he did not injure the spirit snake. If he accidentally injured it, it would be a huge problem. This was Zhou Jie's viciousness. He wanted Chu Li to injure the spirit snake so that he would be chased out of Goddess Attraction Mountain. Chu Li shook his head. The white crane kept pecking at the spirit snake. It wanted to fight back, but was blocked by Chu Li. It seemed like he was attacking it with the white crane. This made it even angrier and more murderous. It was determined to kill him. Chu Li felt helpless. If this went on, it would be troublesome to feed the spirit snake, and they would have to fight each time. He turned to look at Zhu Yuan. Zhu Yuan was even more troublesome. He could not defeat the spirit snake. Once he entered the valley to feed it, he would definitely be killed by the spirit snake. Zhou Jie was really ruthless. Let's go. Chu Li said, You ride a crane first. Okay. Zhu Yuan nodded. He leaped onto a crane and tried to make it leave. Fortunately, the crane was docile and finally turned to leave. The spirit snake turned in the air and chased after Zhu Yuan and the crane. Chu Li floated in front of the crane and Zhu Yuan. The spirit snake suddenly turned around in the air and shot towards Chu Li's white crane, seeing that Chu Li would not be able to save it in time. Ding! A white light shot out from Chu Li's sleeve. The spirit snake was hit by the white light and fell to the ground along with the flying blade. Chu Li leaped in front of the white crane and leaped onto its back. Then, he rode the crane and flew away. The spirit snake wanted to chase after him, but it was hit by another flying blade from Chu Li's sleeve and fell to the ground again. The white crane took off gracefully, descended from the clouds, and arrived at the palace where they were. As soon as the white crane landed in front of the palace, it saw Zhou Jie standing on the steps with his hands behind his back, sizing up the 2 of them. Zhu Yuan arrived in front of him in 2 or 3 steps and angrily shouted, Zhou Jie, you are despicable. Zhou Jie smiled faintly and said lazily, What despicable? You actually tampered with my spiritual herbs and almost caused me to be killed by the spiritual snake. Zhu Yuan clenched his teeth and glared at him. I will definitely report this to the mountain chieftain. All right, then tell me, what did I do? Zhou Jie sneered. Do you think you can do it just because you say so? There has to be evidence, right? He was eaten by a spirit snake. Where's the proof? Zhu Yuan gnashed his teeth, feeling a chill in his heart. He knew that he could not do anything to Zhou Jie now. Lung Tao and the other 2 left the palace and came closer to watch the show. The simple and honest Tang Zhao asked, Brother Zhu, how did Brother Zhou tamper with it? He went through my spiritual herbs. After the spiritual snake ate them, it went berserk and wanted to kill me, Zhu Yuan said hatefully. I personally picked my spiritual herbs one by one. There was absolutely no problem. After he went through them, a problem immediately arose. If it wasn't him, then who could it be? Zhou Jie cast a sidelong glance at him. Zhu Yuan, you think too highly of yourself. But the spiritual snake is fine, right? It doesn't matter if you die, but if anything happens to the spiritual snake, just wait for it to be expelled from Goddess Attraction Mountain. Zhu Yuan scoffed. Don't worry, it is unharmed. Your wishful thinking did not work. Slap. Chu Li suddenly slapped Zhou Jie's face. Zhou Jian never thought that Chu Li would make a move at this time. He was caught off guard and received a resounding slap. His handsome face quickly flushed red, as if it was covered by a layer of red cloth. He glared at Chu Li with a mixture of shame and anger. Chu Li coldly said, "Petty tricks." "Good, good." Zhou Jie gritted his teeth and stared at Chu Li as he slowly nodded. "Disgraceful insubordination." Chu Li said, "Go, complain to the Hill Master." Zhou Jie slowly looked at the others and sneered. "Very well, you have angered me." Chu Li smiled. "So what? Show me what you're capable of. All of you will feel the consequences of angering me." Zhou Jie coldly said, "You have implicated them." Chu Li said, "You still want to continue causing trouble?" "That's right." Zhou Jie sneered. "You can hide from the spiritual snake, but what about them?" Chu Li said, "Their identities are different from mine. If something really happens to them and they are killed by the spiritual snake, how can you explain it to the Hill Master? Everyone can hear you now. You can't escape." "So what?" Zhou Jie curled his lips. "You are just disciples of the imperial family, not princes. So if anything happens to you, no one could do anything to Goddess Attraction Mountain. Just wait and see. We'll see who will die next time." Slap. Chu Li slapped his face again. It was loud and clear. Everyone felt very relieved. Lung Tao said, "Brother Zhou, we are not friends with Chu Li. We are enemies." Tang Zhao and Li Xuanxin did not speak. They only stared at Zhou Jie. They were secretly angry, but also worried. Being in Goddess Attraction Mountain, if they were really harmed, it would be difficult for anyone to take revenge. Goddess Attraction Mountain had an enlightened master. No one could do anything. Enemies? Zhou Jie frowned and looked at Lung Tao. "Aren't you from the Ji dynasty?" "I am enemies with Chu Li." Lung Tao scoffed. "I was bullied by him in Fairy's capital, so I am on Brother Zhou's side." "Very good." Zhou Jie turned to look at Tang Zhao and Li Xuanxin. "What about you guys?" Chu Li slapped him again. Bang! Zhou Jie was prepared this time. Their palms met. The sound was shocking. He used all his strength in this slap. He wanted to plot against Chu Li. He was sure that Chu Li would not dare to kill him. Chu Li only used a portion of his inner energy when he slapped him. This gave him an opportunity to use all his strength to injure Chu Li. Thump, 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 thump. He climbed up 4 steps, his face as red as blood. Chu Li sneered and shook his head. "All you do is play these little tricks all day long. No wonder you can't cultivate the spirit serpent technique." Zhou Jie's eyes were spitting fire, as if he wanted to eat him alive. Chu Li shook his head. "What's the point of sowing discord? It's just a joke. I wonder if the Hill Master will be ashamed if he knows you like this. Goddess Attraction Mountain's future is bleak after finding a good-for-nothing like you. How arrogant." Zhou Jie gritted his teeth. "It's not too late to say that after you become an Inner Mountain disciple." Chu Li said, "Becoming an Inner Mountain disciple is a piece of cake." "Ha!" Zhou Jie laughed. Chu Li looked at him calmly. "You think I can't cultivate the spirit serpent technique?" "You can't." Zhou Jie sneered. Chu Li said, "Is there a problem with the spirit serpent technique you gave me? You're gauging the heart of a gentleman with your own mean measure." Zhou Jie gritted his teeth. "There's no problem with the spirit serpent technique I gave you, but you won't be able to cultivate it." Chu Li said, "Then let's wait and see. If you don't leave, don't blame me for being ruthless. Then I'll wait for you to cultivate the spirit serpent technique." Zhou Jie sneered and mounted a white crane. He flew up into the clouds and disappeared. Chapter 1451. Chu Li watched as Zhou Jie disappeared. Zhu Yuan sighed. "Brother Chu." He felt that Chu Li was just talking big because he was provoked. It was almost impossible to become an Inner Mountain disciple. The spirit serpent technique was too difficult and the cultivation progress was slow. Although it was powerful, it was impossible to master it. Lung Tao snorted but did not dare to say anything else. He knew that Chu Li had a bad temper and would slap people for no reason. If he continued to provoke him, he would not be able to escape from Chu Li's hands. Tang Zhao and Li Xuanxin remained silent. Chu Li gave a fist salute. "Brother Tang, Brother Li, I'm sorry. This has nothing to do with Brother Chu, Tang Zhao said gravely. Before coming up the mountain, I never would have thought that the disciples of Goddess Attraction Mountain would be so domineering. Li Xian thought to himself, Brother Chu, can you really master the spirit snake art? After being instigated by Zhou Jie, their relationship became closer, and they felt like they were facing a common enemy. Chu Li nodded. I found the trick to cultivating the spirit serpent technique. Actually, this technique doesn't use the spiritual energy of this world, but the spiritual energy of the outland. If I don't understand this, it'll be difficult to cultivate it. The spiritual energy of the realm beyond heaven. The three of them were startled. Chu Li decided to help them, but even so, it would be difficult for the three of them to cultivate the spirit snake technique. If he really became all alone on Goddess Attraction Mountain, it would be very uncomfortable. It would affect his energy and delay his cultivation time. In order to avoid these trivial troubles, he didn't mind generously telling her the secrets of the spirit snake incantation. Moreover, the four of them were members of the royal family, so there might be opportunities for them to cooperate in the future. Lung Tao pursed his lips. Don't tell me you're trying to fool us. Where did this spiritual energy from the heavens beyond come from? Chu Li cast a sidelong glance at him. Even if there aren't any other places, Goddess Attraction Mountain might still have some. Then how did you know to use the spiritual energy of the sky beyond heavens? Could it be that you found it? Lung Tao scoffed. Chu Li said, take a good look at the primary technique of the spirit serpent technique. The secret is in the primary technique. If you can't understand it, then it's not suitable for you to cultivate the spirit serpent technique. It's better not to waste your time. Lung Tao and the other three were deep in thought, try to recall the fundamental formula of the spirit serpent incantation, but they couldn't remember it. Their attention was completely focused on the circulation method of the spirit serpent incantation. They tried their best to remember the circulation route, so they only glanced at the fundamental part of the incantation. Wheel? Clang? Gray Halo? Shual Bai Yin Gongzi? Argon Gupong Base Chu. Li could tell just by looking at their expressions. He shook his head and said slowly, Heaven and earth, the cage of all living things, spiritual energy, the soul of all living things. Everyone immediately pricked up their ears to listen to every word that Chu Li said. Chu Li repeated it twice. When they had memorized it, he closed fists, saluted, and left. He returned to his courtyard and sat cross-legged on his bed to start channeling the spirit serpent technique. He wasn't boasting before. He was confident that he could successfully cultivate the spirit serpent incantation. Moreover, if he couldn't even cultivate the insignificant spirit serpent incantation, how could he talk about the dragon control art? Defying the heavens and becoming a god would be a huge joke. The extreme Yang Qi activated the spirit serpent incantation, and he advanced it to the third level in one go. He continued to cultivate, and the inner force cultivated by the third level of the spirit serpent incantation had a mellow feeling, and it was no longer as hard as before. Chu Li fell into deep thought and realized that there was something familiar about this mellow aura. It was the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture's inner energy contained in the 6 chakras. With a flash of inspiration, he simply mobilized the aura within the 6 chakras and started to activate the spirit serpent incantation. He started from the 4th level of the heart technique and completed it in one go. Then he continued to the 5th level, the 6th level, and finally the 8th level in one go. When he was about to reach the 9th level, there was only 1/10 of the mellow aura left in the 6 chakras. He didn't dare to use all of it, as the mellow aura would decrease with every use, and it couldn't be recovered. However, he cultivated it to the 8th level in one go. The hard and spiritual aura flowed along the 8th level of the heart technique and quickly formed a mellow aura. Although it wasn't as good as the inner energy of the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture, it was about 50 to 60% similar. The hard and yang aura flowed along the 8th level of the heart technique and continuously formed a mellow aura. After a while, the mellow aura in his dantian became vigorous. He then used this mellow aura to move it according to the 8th level of the heart technique and purify it. After more than 10 circulations, the mellow aura became even purer, but it still couldn't reach the depth of the supreme titanium supreme scripture. It was 30 to 40% away, and no matter how pure it was, it couldn't reach it. Chuli sighed and shook his head helplessly. It seemed that the 9th level of the spirit serpent technique was difficult to achieve in a short period of time. Zhou Jie said, "Junior brother Chu, which level are you at?" He realized that he couldn't see through Chu Li's level of the spirit serpent technique. Instead, he felt an even greater pressure. His spirit serpent technique had advanced to the next level, and his cultivation level had increased greatly. Theoretically, he should be able to overcome the previous pressure, but he didn't expect the pressure to be even stronger. Chu Li said, "The 8th level." Zhou Jie's calm face finally changed. He said hoarsely, "The 8th level." Chapter 1452. Chu Li smiled. "That's right. How was that possible?" Zhou Jie looked at him in shock. Chu Li smiled. "I guess I was lucky. I was able to reach the 8th level in one go. Maybe my foundation is not stable, so I can't reach the 9th level. It's really worrying." Zhou Jie's expression was inexplicably complicated. He sighed, "I didn't expect you to reach the 8th level. Looks like you'll definitely become an inner mountain disciple." Chu Li smiled and nodded. "Please guide me, Brother Zhou. Please guide me." Zhou Jie waved his hand. "Go ahead and take care, Xiao Bai." He turned around and slowly walked into the basilica. He staggered and almost fell. It was rare for someone like him to have such a high level of martial arts. Chu Li shook his head and laughed. Fortunately, no matter how much he changed, he still had the temperament of a young man. He was competitive and had weaknesses. If he was as calm as he appeared to be, it would be more troublesome and difficult to deal with. This could almost destroy his confidence. He did not know when he would be able to regain his spirit. Maybe he could defeat him in one go. That would be great. He collected his thoughts and turned towards a ravine. A moment later, he arrived at the valley. Before he could put down the bag of spirit herbs, a green shadow flashed by. A jasper-like spirit snake shot towards him. It hissed angrily and glared at him with its cold vertical pupils. Its cold eyes seemed to be filled with anger. Chu Li calmly struck with his palm. He used the inner energy of the 8th level of the spirit serpent technique. It was rich and gentle. Bang! The jasper spirit snake suddenly bounced off and rolled on the ground. It coiled up and looked at him. The omniscient mirror saw the inner energy of the spirit serpent technique entering the body of the jasper spirit snake. It penetrated into its flesh and strengthened its flesh. Not only did it not get hurt, it became stronger instead. Chu Li nodded to himself. It seemed like his guess was right. The spirit serpent technique could strengthen the spirit snake and turn it into a dragon or even a real dragon. From there, it could ride the clouds and fly to the outland. Chu Li struck again with his palm. The inner energy of the spirit serpent technique attacked the jasper spirit snake from afar. It coiled on the ground motionlessly. The snake's head laid down softly. Chu Li continuously struck with his palm. He used all the inner energy of the spirit serpent technique stored in his dantian. Only when his dantian was empty did he stop. The spirit snake was already coiled on the ground, motionless, as if it had gone into hibernation. Chu Li could feel that it was constantly strengthening. The next time he came, it might be able to shed its skin. Therefore, he placed the spirit herb pouch next to its mouth and glided away from the ravine. When he arrived in front of the palace, he was about to ride the crane down. Zhou Jie suddenly appeared from the palace and cupped his fists. "Junior brother Chu." Chu Li closed fist saluted. "What can I do for you, brother Zhou?" Zhou Jie extended his hand and invited them in. "Let's talk inside the hall." Chu Li looked at him. Zhou Jie looked at him sincerely. Chu Li smiled and nodded, then followed him into the basilica. The hall was empty and spacious, but it exuded a solemn aura. There were 2 golden prayer mats on the white jade floor, and a painting hung on the north wall. In the painting was a handsome middle-aged man with a long sword at his waist. His long robes fluttered in the wind as he stepped on a huge dragon and shuttled through the clouds. He was in high spirits as he looked down upon the world. Chu Li's gaze involuntarily fell on the middle-aged man, then slowly turned to the huge dragon under his feet. Only the dragon's claws and body could be seen, but not the dragon's head. The dragon's body was hidden in the clouds, faintly discernible. It seemed to be flying diagonally upwards, passing through the clouds and continuing upwards. Its imposing manner was earth-shattering. Chu Li looked at the huge dragon in admiration. The evil nether dragon was much weaker than this dragon. This could be considered a real dragon. Zhou Jie stood at the side. This is the founder of Goddess Attraction Mountain. If you can enter the mountain, you will have to meet the founder and receive the dragon taming technique. Chu Li said, even if I become an inner mountain disciple, I can't cultivate the dragon taming technique, right? I heard that only an official disciple like Brother Zhou can cultivate the dragon taming technique. Yes, Zhou Jie nodded slowly. The dragon taming technique requires a special aptitude. Chu Li smiled. What kind of aptitude? Zhou Jie shook his head. I don't know either. Only Master and Grandmaster know. But in the past 1,000 years, there's been no other inner mountain disciple. Junior brother Chu, you may be the first. Chu Li said, Senior brother Zhou, you asked me to come here because I want to ask about the secrets of the spirit serpent technique. Zhou Jie looked at him calmly and said sincerely, I hope junior brother Chu will not be stingy with your guidance. Chu Li looked at him in surprise. Zhou Jie thought about it and gritted his teeth. I can pass on one of the secrets of the spirit serpent technique to junior brother Chu. What secret? Chu Li asked. He was thinking about what Zhou Jie wanted to do. Could it be that he really wanted to ask him about the wonders of the spirit serpent technique? Logically, there was no need for this. He could just ask his master. Zhou Jie should know the fundamentals of the spirit serpent technique. Zhou Jie said, to perfect the spirit serpent technique, you actually need the help of a dragon, even a dragon. Without the help of a dragon, it will be difficult to perfect it. The help of a dragon. Chu Li frowned and pondered. Zhou Jie nodded. Without dragon energy, the spirit serpent technique cannot be perfected. It will be useless no matter how long you cultivate it. I see that junior brother Chu has cultivated to the 8th level. If you don't know this secret, you will never be able to perfect the 9th level in your lifetime. Actually, even if he did not say this secret, his master would tell him after he came out of isolation. It was better to do him a favor. There must be a shortcut to be able to cultivate the spirit serpent technique to the 8th level in 10 days. Chu Li thought about it and said, to cultivate the spirit serpent technique, you need to cultivate with spiritual energy from the outland. Senior brother Zhou should know this secret, right? Spiritual energy from the outland? Zhou Jie frowned. Chu Li saw that he did not know and smiled. Our Goddess Attraction Mountain not only has spiritual energy from this world, but it is also filled with spiritual energy from the outland. If you absorb it into your body to cultivate the spirit serpent technique, you will get twice the result with half the effort and cultivate faster. He was a little curious. Why did Zhou Jie's master not mention this? Did he want Zhou Jie to understand it himself? Zhou Jie said, you can sense the spiritual energy from the outland. Very easy. Chu Li nodded. Once you understand the general outline of the spirit serpent technique, you can sense the spiritual energy from the outland. Good. Zhou Jie closed fist saluted. Thank you, junior brother Chu. Chu Li smiled. I still have to thank you, senior brother Zhou. Both of them were satisfied with this deal. Chu Li closed fist saluted. Then I will leave. Good. Zhou Jie closed fist saluted and nodded. He stood on the steps outside the palace and watched as Chu Li sat on the white crane and flew away. His handsome face turned gloomy and his gaze turned cold. He took a deep breath and calmed down. He was the reincarnation of a deva and would definitely become an enlightened master. Why should he stoop to Chu Li's level? No matter how powerful Chu Li was, it would be difficult for him to become an enlightened master. Even if he did, he would be far inferior to him. Enlightened masters were also divided. The enlightened master of Goddess Attraction Mountain was the strongest enlightened master and could freely enter the Outland. As he thought about this, his turbulent emotions calmed down again. He shook his head and turned to leave. Chu Li returned to his courtyard and paced with his hands behind his back. He looked up at the sky and pondered. It seemed like he had to return to the 10 ultimate vitality lock formation. To perfect the spirit serpent technique, he needed the evil nether dragon. The spirit serpent technique cultivated spiritual energy from the Outland. He was not afraid of being in the 10 ultimate vitality lock formation, as he could escape at any time. Moreover, he still had the Supreme Titanium Supreme Scripture's inner energy left in his umbilical chakra, which was enough for him to escape. P.S. Update complete. Chapter 1453. He went out to look for Zhu Yuan and told him that he wanted to go down the mountain. Zhu Yuan nodded without asking and passed Chu Li's waist tag to him. With this waist tag, he could return to Goddess Attraction Mountain the next time. Without it, he could not enter Goddess Attraction Mountain, as there was an invisible force blocking him. They could not climb the inner mountain with their light body technique. After Chu Li received the waist tag, he rode a white crane and descended to the foot of the mountain. He then used his light body technique to leave. After traveling for 100 miles, he suddenly disappeared and reappeared at the peak of the mountain, ready to enter the valley. As soon as he appeared, his expression changed. There were 4 people sitting cross-legged on the peak. There were 2 red-robed monks and 2 middle-aged men in green. They were in groups of 2 and were about 10 meters apart from each other. Chu Li's appearance attracted the attention of the 2 groups, and they looked at him. Chu Li frowned. These 2 monks were from the Reincarnation Temple. When they saw Chu Li, their expressions changed, and they cried out, "Chu Li!" Chu Li and Sun Mingwei had joined hands to wreak havoc in the Reincarnation Temple. They had utterly defeated the Reincarnation Temple's masters and almost wiped them out. To the disciples of the Reincarnation Temple, this was the greatest humiliation they had suffered in the last few hundred years. Even though they were monks, they could not help but hate the 2 of them. They recognized Chu Li as soon as they saw him. Chu Li nodded and looked at the 2 middle-aged men in green. He used the omniscient mirror to identify them. They were high officials of the Qiu dynasty's imperial house and were the top masters of the Qiu dynasty. Chu Li, the 2 middle-aged men in green, looked at the 2 red-robed monks. The 2 red-robed monks stared at Chu Li with their bodies tensed. They clenched their fists but did not attack. They knew that Chu Li's martial arts was powerful and it would be useless to attack him. Chu Li asked, "What are you doing here? What are you doing here?" One of the Reincarnation Temple monks scoffed. Chu Li shook his head and smiled. "The scenery here is nice. I'm here to take a look. This isn't a scenic spot. Please leave." The middle-aged man in green said, "Otherwise, we'll have to attack you and ask you to leave." Chu Li chuckled. "Are you high officials of the Qiu dynasty's imperial house?" "That's right." The 2 of them looked serious. They looked at the 2 monks. The monk shook his head and gestured for them not to attack. Chu Li said, "In that case, you're guarding the gate." Someone went down? Their expressions changed slightly. The monk from the Temple of Double Reincarnation asked in a deep voice, "Why does almsgiver Chu say so?" Chu Li smiled. "Monk Luan Ming and the Qiu dynasty's emperor found out about this place through us." "How can I not know what you guys are doing?" "Then what do you want?" A middle-aged man in a green robe asked. "I want to go down and have a look." Chu Li shook his head and said, "But you should be prepared. The people who went down there are probably dead by now. There's a 10 absolute vitality locked down there, so inner energy can't be used. Moreover, there's a dragon." "Impossible." The green-robed middle-aged man shook his head and said, "There are no dragons now. All the spirit beasts had entered the 100,000 hills, and the dragon no longer existed in this world. It was as if it had entered the Outland, so there were no longer any dragons in this world. How could they believe Chu Li when he said that there was a dragon down there? Chu Li said, "The world is full of surprises. If there weren't any accidents, they would have come here a long time ago, right?" All four of them wore solemn expressions. They did not know what was down there. Monk Luan Ming knew that Chu Li and Sun Mingyue's martial arts had improved greatly after they fell off the cliff. The two of them could fight against an enlightened master if they worked together, so he wanted to find out. Shun Jinji forced himself to help them to find out, but he would never tell anyone else. Chu Li shook his head. "You guys have been here for a while, right?" 10 days. One of the monks from the reincarnation temple said slowly. Chu Li smiled. "I'm afraid they're dead. Why don't you follow me down there and have a look?" "There's no need." The monk from the reincarnation temple shook his head. Chu Li said, "Then I'll go down myself." "Almsgiver Chu, you can't go down," the monk from the reincarnation temple said. Chu Li smiled at him. The monk from the reincarnation temple said, "No one is allowed to enter without permission from the temple." Chu Li smiled and said, "It seems like Monk Luan Ming wants to monopolize the benefits. This is a serious matter. Please forgive us, Almsgiver Chu." One of the monks said slowly, "If Almsgiver Chu really wants to go down, you can discuss it with Masters Junior Luan Ming first." Chu Li said, "Discuss it with Monk Luan Ming? If I want to go in, it's not his place to tell me what to do. Goodbye." He appeared behind them in a flash and floated down. Swoosh! 4 rays of light flashed. 2 black and 2 white sun and moon wheels were shot at him in the air. Chu Li was in the air and gently stretched out his palms. He grabbed the 4 sun and moon wheels and threw them out. The 2 monks' expressions changed drastically, and they quickly retreated. The power contained in the sun and moon wheels was extremely strange. It was the unique transformation power of the Earth Matrix and reincarnation scripture. It could change multiple times in a single breath. No one else would be able to withstand it, but Chu Li could. The 2 monks knew something was wrong. They had a premonition of what Chu Li was going to do. Chapter 1454. Chu Li frowned. Why wasn't the evil nether dragon looking for him? Could it have perished together with the other masters? He immediately shook his head. Even if it perished together, he would still be able to see the corpse, but now he couldn't see it. The only possibility was that it was hiding in its cave. He took a deep breath and swam downstream, slowly observing the bottom of the lake. The gently swaying water plants were like the forest outside, moving with the wind. A gentle and tranquil feeling enveloped him, making him feel inexplicably relaxed. He quickly braced himself and didn't let himself relax. It was very dangerous here. The evil nether dragon was more powerful than he imagined. Fortunately, he could use the spiritual energy of the Grand Master, or else he would be courting death in the pool. The evil nether dragon had the ability to resist water, so it attacked silently. Moreover, the omniscient mirror was useless here, so he had to rely on intuition. After sinking 100 meters, he slowly felt the pressure, but the evil nether dragon still hadn't appeared. Chu Li became more vigilant. Every pore on his body stood up, his body relaxed, and his mind tensed up. Bang! He suddenly slammed his palm behind him. Intuition told him that there was danger coming from behind, so he immediately slammed his palm. The extremely firm palm energy turned into a bomb in the water, forming a surging current that crashed behind him. The silent evil nether dragon crashed into this current. The surging current was split in two, like a hot knife cutting through butter. It silently approached, not slowing down the dragon at all. Chu Li stomped on the ground and crawled upwards. His speed and the huge buoyancy of the pool made him shoot out like an arrow. He was extremely fast, barely avoiding the dagger-like teeth of the evil nether dragon. With a crack-crack sound, it chased after him. Chu Li kept slamming his palm energy, pushing him to accelerate. With the buoyancy, his speed was even faster than the evil nether dragon. In the blink of an eye, he drilled out of the water and leaped up. Crack! The evil nether dragon's teeth opened and closed, and the sound of them colliding was chilling. Its teeth were like two rows of daggers, glinting under the sunlight. Chuli turned in the air and swept out, once again avoiding the evil nether dragon. Roar! The evil nether dragon let out a long roar and chased after him at an extremely fast speed. Chuli reached the shore, not in a hurry to use his light body technique. He ran at his original speed, stepping on the lush green grass, faster than a galloping horse. The evil dark dragon chased after him, ready to bite his back at any moment. Chu Li's expression turned solemn as he realized that the evil dark dragon's power had increased tremendously. It had increased by 2 levels compared to the last time he met it. Why did this happen? Chu Li speculated that it must have eaten the masters who had barged in earlier. The evil dark dragon had the body of a dragon, and because it had been trapped in the 10 extreme origin sealing formation for nearly 1,000 years, it had not been nourished by spiritual energy and had not eaten flesh. Otherwise, its strength would have been shocking, and Sun Mingyue and him would not have been able to escape. If there were no accidents, its strength would not increase, but it would gradually weaken. If it strengthened, it must have eaten a few top-notch grandmasters. When he thought of this, killing intent rose in his heart. He was afraid that he couldn't keep it alive. After eating humans, it would become addicted. Once the 10 absolute origin locking formation was broken and it escaped from the valley, it would definitely be a catastrophe. With the nourishment of spiritual energy and flesh, it would quickly recover its strength, and even enlightened masters would not be able to deal with it. Thinking of this, he turned around and slapped down. Bang! With a muffled sound, the palms solidly hit its head. The evil dark dragon's forward momentum paused, and then it bit down again, but it was not injured. After the firm and yang inner energy drilled into its body, it did not damage its body. Instead, it was defeated by an invisible force, and it did not pose a threat. Chu Li frowned. It seemed that he needed to use the rich aura of the supreme diamond scripture to deal with it. Unfortunately, he only had 1/10 of it left to escape. He could not rush to use it now, or else it would be difficult to get out of this formation. He suddenly looked up at the sky. The 4 figures fell straight down like stones. Bang, 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 bang. With 4 muffled sounds, the 4 fell into the pool. Chu Li's expression changed slightly, and he hurriedly shouted, "Quickly leave the pool." After falling from such a high place, the water's surface seemed soft, but it was no different from mud. They could not use inner energy, so they were dizzy from the fall. When they heard Chu Li's shout, they subconsciously moved and began to swim to the shore. The evil dark dragon's movements suddenly sped up, and it abandoned him and turned to leave. Like a shadow, it drilled into the pool and then disappeared without a sound. Chu Li hurriedly shouted, "Quick, quick!" He bent down, picked up 4 stones, and threw them at the 4 people. With a sharp whistle, the 4 people were hit by the stones and flew out of the pool, landing on the grass. The 4 people spat out a mouthful of blood. They were already injured. At first glance, it looked like Chu Li had attacked the 4 people. Stop! With a shout, another 4 people fell from the sky. Roar! The evil dark dragon drilled out of the pool and let out a long roar, glaring at Chu Li angrily. Chu Li shouted, "Be careful, it will eat you." With that, he shot out 4 small stones again, which let out a sharp whistle. The 4 people who fell from the sky suddenly flew out and were hit by the stones more than 10 meters away. They fell and rolled with the previous 4 people. Fortunately, they were not injured, and Chu Li was already trying his best to control it. Chu Li shouted, "Run, run." As he spoke, he rushed toward them. Although these 8 people were high officials of the Reincarnation Temple and the Great Xiu Dynasty's imperial house, he could not watch them be eaten by the evil dark dragon. Not to mention that they were all humans, the evil dark dragon's strength would skyrocket after eating them. It was impossible to subdue it and obtain the dragon energy from it to cultivate. The evil dark dragon drilled out of the water and shot toward the 8 people like a shadow. In the 10 absolute vitality sealing formation, Chu Li could not use the void diversion technique, so he could only use the energy of extreme yang to activate his light body technique. Like a flash of lightning, he blocked the evil dark dragon before it could bite one of the people and attacked with both palms. Bang! The evil dark dragon's teeth were hit by the palm energy, and it immediately took a step back. The numbness on its teeth prevented it from continuing to open its mouth. Roar! The evil dark dragon roared angrily, turned around, and swung its tail. Bang! He attacked with his palms again. An unstoppable force came from its tail, and Chu Li was directly swept away. Bang! 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 The remaining 8 people were swept by the tail, and they spat out arrows of blood in the air. With this tail, even a rock would turn into powder, let alone a body of flesh and blood. If Chu Li had not tried his best to block it, they would not have survived. Chu Li shouted, "Run! Run into the forest!" The 8 people gritted their teeth and ran with all their might. They did not care about their injuries, and they spat out blood as they ran. Chu Li suddenly shouted, "Moo!" The evil dark dragon's movements paused, and then it glared fiercely at him. New hatred and old hatred surged in its heart. Those 8 people would be its delicious meal sooner or later, so it was not in a hurry to eat them. After all, it did not know when it would have such delicious food again. It wanted to kill Chu Li first so that it could enjoy the delicious food in peace. It swung its tail and rushed toward Chu Li, its movements extremely fast. Chu Li attacked with his palms. Bang, 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 bang. The two clashed head-on. Chu Li continuously attacked with his palms, accurately hitting the evil dark dragon. With the omniscient mirror and the nature restoration manifestation, he could predict the evil dark dragon's movements. Chapter 1455. Chu Li retreated as he fought. He was forced back step by step by the evil dark dragon, but his retreat was not chaotic. He was able to hold on. Although the evil dark dragon had the advantage, it could not overwhelm him or hurt him. The evil dark dragon kept biting at Chu Li as if it was inflexible and did not know how to change to another method. It just kept attacking. Chu Li knew that it was more intelligent than people, even better than ordinary people. Its advantage was its body. Its endurance was almost endless. Chu Li's body was ordinary. Even if he could use inner energy, it felt that there would be a limit. It would be hard to keep going. It had a long life, so it felt that 1 or 2 days was just a blink of an eye. It was not in a hurry to kill Chu Li and just kept attacking. It wanted to slowly wear Chu Li down and get rid of this danger. Chu Li had something to rely on. No matter how strong the evil dark dragon was, as long as he used the rich energy of the supreme diamond scripture, he could injure it and escape. That was why he kept fighting the evil dark dragon. The 8 of them burrowed into the forest and climbed up the trees to watch. They heard explosions as Chu Li and the evil dark dragon fought fiercely, causing them to suck in a breath of cold air. In a situation where he couldn't use his inner energy, Chu Li was able to block the evil dark dragon. They thought that if Chu Li did not fight them, they would have already died in the stomach of the evil dark dragon. Time passed slowly, and Chu Li was multitasking. On one hand, he was urging the unyielding and purest yang energy to fight with the evil nether dragon, and on the other hand, he was using the nirvana wheel to absorb the spiritual energy from the outland. The unyielding and purest yang energy entered his body and poured it directly into his meridians to circulate. He unknowingly balanced the speed of absorption and consumption. It would not be a problem to fight like this for a day and night. His body was strong enough to hold on. When the sun set and dusk shrouded the sky, the two were still fighting fiercely. With a whistle, the 2 figures floated down. When they reached the top of the valley, they suddenly dropped like stones into the pool. The evil dark dragon suddenly turned around and swung its tail. Then, it took advantage of Chu Li's dodge to quickly escape. It no longer paid attention to Chu Li and quickly entered the pool. Chu Li already saw the 2 people who fell, Monk Luan Ming and Chun Jinji. The 2 enlightened masters finally could not resist and came down. He didn't throw the pebble to save the 2 of them. Heavenly God experts should be able to stop the evil dark dragon. The current evil dark dragon was far from its peak, and it might not be a match for two heavenly god experts. Bang! Water splashed as Monk Luan Ming and Chun Jinji suddenly struck the evil underworld dragon with their palms. Chu Li's eyebrows twitched. It seemed that they were able to activate their inner energy even in the valley. Clearly, it was not the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, but the spiritual energy of Outland. It turned out that enlightened masters could also mobilize the spiritual energy of Outland. Bang, 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 bang. The pool started to boil, and water splashed everywhere. The evil dark dragon was silent and could not be seen moving. However, the two of them continuously attacked with their palms, causing explosions to ring out. Chu Li shook his head. It was very difficult for their palm energy to hurt the evil dark dragon, especially in the water. The evil dark dragon in the water was especially terrifying as it could repel water, so no matter how powerful their palm energy was, it could not hurt it in the water. He didn't warn the two heavenly deities. Instead, he had to worry about his own safety. If Sun Mingwe was here, he would still have some confidence. Now that he was alone against the two of them, he had no chance of winning. He could not even escape. If he could use the Deva shedding technique, the two of them might not be able to. He stared at the pool with a frown and slowly walked to the side. Bang! The two of them suddenly drilled out of the pool and took a few steps in the air. The evil dark dragon followed closely behind, its two rows of teeth making kacha sounds. It wanted to chew and swallow the two of them, but it was always one step too late. The two of them were extremely fast and managed to avoid it every time. Once they left the pool, Monk Luan Ming and Chun Jinji's power instantly increased. The evil dark dragon was no longer as fierce as before and was immediately at a disadvantage. The palm energy that hit its body would hinder its movements. However, Chu Li's omniscient mirror could see clearly that although the two of them were enlightened masters, they could not hurt the evil dark dragon. Although its movements were somewhat clumsy, it was fast, and its skin was thick, so it was not afraid of being hit. The two of them and the dragon fought from the shore to the forest. The 8 of them who hid in the forest fled outwards, but they saw the trees breaking one by one. The evil dark dragon's tail swept past, and the thick trees were like thin sticks that had no resistance and were easily broken. The two of them blocked and retreated at the same time. Seeing that the 8 of them were still there, they let out a sigh of relief. However, after more than 100 palm strikes, they realized that they could not do anything to the evil dark dragon. The evil dark dragon's body was strong, and their palm energy could not hurt at all. Master, don't hide your trump card anymore, Chun Jinji said. Monk Luan Ming nodded slowly. His red monk robe slowly puffed up as if it was filled with air, but in the blink of an eye, it returned to normal. Monk Luan Ming's face was as white as jade, and the emotions on his body seemed to have faded away completely. He was like a statue of Buddha in a temple. His eyes were calm as he looked at the evil dark dragon. His hands formed a mudra and slowly pressed down. Following his mudra, Chu Li could faintly see a giant Buddha appear in the sky. The giant Buddha raised his right hand and pressed down. His right palm slowly appeared in the void. The palm was golden and combined with Monk Luan Ming's right palm. As it pushed out, the golden color became brighter and brighter until it was as brilliant as gold. Chun Jinji's eyes flashed like lightning. Chu Li's omniscient mirror could see everything clearly. An emerald light fell from the sky and entered his Bai Wei. The emerald light spread throughout his body and turned into a whirlpool that spun faster and faster. His body was suffering from extreme torture, and the emerald light was extremely harmful. In the blink of an eye, he was heavily injured. The whirlpool suddenly disappeared and condensed into a pool of emerald water. The emerald water began to flow through his body, and his injuries instantly recovered. Finally, only a little bit was left in his palms. Bang! Both of his palms hit the evil dark dragon's head, and the emerald water poured into it. Bang! Monk Luan Ming's right palm also hit the evil dark dragon's head. Woo! The evil dark dragon let out a long roar and shook its body in rage. Monk Luan Ming and Chun Jinji were sent flying. The 8 of them who had escaped, not far away, started to bleed from their mouths and noses. They fell to the ground and fainted from the evil dark dragon's roar. Woo! The evil dark dragon let out a mournful roar. 2 strange forces were wreaking havoc in its body, destroying it. A force surged out of the evil dark dragon's body to fight against them, but its movements became slow and powerless. The emerald water and golden palm energy were not thick, but they were abnormally pure. They were like small swords shuttling through its body. Monk Luan Ming and Chun Jinji looked at each other and activated their secret skills again. Chuli frowned and shouted helplessly, "Wait! If the 2 of them really killed the evil dark dragon, he would not be able to cultivate the spirit snake technique. Although he wanted to kill the evil dark dragon, he had to save it for later." The 2 of them shot their gazes over like lightning, then turned away and ignored him. 2 more palms hit the evil dark dragon. The evil dark dragon's movements were slow, and it could not dodge in time. It could only watch helplessly as the palms hit it. Woo! It let out a shrill roar and ran towards the pool. Monk Luan Ming and Chun Jinji activated their secret skills again and chased after it. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.